Heavy snowfall blankets several high-altitude regions of Nepal. Farmers rejoice. Daily life, however, faces disruption. Election Commission of Nepal says printing of 15 million ballot papers for the proportional representation electoral system underway. Nepal signs a landmark agreement to receive climate finance of $55 million also becomes first Asian country to access climate finance lead coalition. Ukraine condemns fresh wave of Russian strikes. Attack comes as trial talks in Abu Dhabi set to resume. Heavy rainfall-induced landslide kills at least 8 and over 80 missing off Indonesia's main island of Java. Rescue underway. And Nepal beats Zimbabwe in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier. Men's cricket team registers win over Sri Lanka A in final practice match. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and this is NTV World Primetime News, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now, the news in details. Fresh snowfall has blanketed several high-altitude regions of Nepal, bringing both relief to farmers and disruptions to daily life in the country's remote mountainous districts. In high mountainous districts of Humla, the first snowfall of the year has arrived after months of dry weather. The region has not received rainfall since September, raising concerns among farmers. With onset of rain and snow, locals expressed relief, saying the participation is vital for crops and pasture. While the lower Humla areas experience rainfall, higher elevations, including the district headquarters, Simikot and Namkha, saw the heavy snowfall. The snow has caused difficulties in daily life and completely blocked the route from Namkha to Hisla, a key road leading to the northern border with China's Tibet Autonomous Region. Snowfall was also reported in Upper Himal Rural Municipality 4 in Darchula district, part of the far western Sudar Paschim province. The snow has disrupted local life. Through the farmers are hopeful that the moisture will improve crop yields. In Upper Mustang, located in Gandaki province, heavy snow fell around Lomangthang, Tengchung, Customs Point and the Kerala border. The snowfall has affected local mobility and daily activities, but farmers welcomed it, believing it will support agricultural production and improve pasture conditions. In Western Magdi district, snowfall was reported in Lulang village of Dhaulagiri rural municipality, covering the surrounding area. The snow has affected daily life, but is expected to help local agriculture. The Election Commission of Nepal says that printing of 15 million ballot papers for the proportional representation electoral system has been already carried out. The ballot paper printing had started at the press of Janak Education Materials Center since January 16. Now 5 million ballot papers are remaining to be printed. According to the Election Commission, printing of the ballot papers for the first past the post will begin upon completion of the printing of ballot papers for PR system. The final name list of the FPTP candidates have been set. According to Election Commission, for the purpose of nomination filing, a set of voters' name list was printed and dispatched to all districts. The Election Commission has made public the name list of 406 candidates for the House of Representatives to be held on coming March 5. Likewise, the Election Commission has provided election symbols to the candidates on Friday. Elections are being held tomorrow to fill 17 vacant seats in Nepal's upper house, the National Assembly. Voting will take place from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at designated polling systems in the representative provinces. According to the Election Commission, although 18 seats were due to fall vacant, elections are being conducted for 17 seats as Nepali Congress candidate Sunil Bahadur Thapa has already been elected unopposed. A total of 2,043 voters, including provincial assembly members and mayors and deputy mayors of local governments, are eligible to vote in the election. The Election Commission, however, added the final voter count is yet to be confirmed, as some provincial assembly members and local government heads have resigned to contest elections to the House of Representatives. A vote of provincial assembly member carries the weightage of 53, whereas it is 19 each of the chief and deputy chiefs of the local units. A total of 51 candidates from 8 political parties are in the election race. Meanwhile, all preparations have been completed in Nepal's Bagmati province for the National Assembly member election scheduled for tomorrow. According to the Office of the Election Officer under the National Assembly election, voting will be held for 2 seats in Bagmati province, 1 in women's category and 1 in open category. There are a total of 338 voters in Bagmati province for the National Assembly election. The voter count, however, have decreased as the local government heads have also resigned. According to Chief of the Provincial Election Office, Hari Dhakal, out of 238 eligible voters from 119 local units, only 234 voters can vote in tomorrow's National Assembly election, as the mayor of Nagarjun municipality is under suspension and 3 others have resigned. According to Chief of the Provincial Election Office, Dhakal, the total vote weight in the province stands at 9,958, including 5,512 votes from the Provincial Assembly with a vote weight of 53 and 4,446 votes from local governments with a vote weight of 19. Time for a short break now. We'll be right back with more updates. Welcome back. Martyrs Week celebration has kicked off from today in memory of those martyrs who fought and sacrificed their lives for democracy and political freedom in Nepal. In this connection, a program has held today at the memorial of Sukraraj Sastri at Pachali of Teku in Kathmandu, where Sastri was executed by hanging from a tree during the Rana regime, then for his fight for democracy. Today is the first day of the Martyrs Week observed annually in the country. Martyrs Week is observed in commemoration of Martyrs Sukraraj Sastri, Dharma Bhakta Mathema, Dashrath Chand and Gangalal Shrestha, who were executed by the Rana rulers on different dates in the month of Magh during 1997 Bikram Samvat of Nepali calendar for rebelling against the autocratic Rana oligarchy. Various programs, including memorial assemblies, are organized throughout the week to pay tributes to the freedom fighters. Nepal has made history by becoming the first country in Asia to commercially sell carbon credits for reducing deforestation, marking a major milestone in global climate action. Under a landmark agreement with the World Bank through the LEAF Coalition, Nepal will earn international climate finance by protecting its forest and cutting carbon emissions. The deal allows Nepal to sell nearly 4 million carbon credits generated between 2022 and 2026, with projected earnings of up to $55 million. These credits are produced through Nepal's long-standing community forest management system, widely recognized as a global success model. Officials say the funding will directly benefit forest-dependent communities, including indigenous people, women, and marginalized groups. As climate changes intensify worldwide, Nepal's initiative highlights how developing nations can lead by protecting nature and investing in sustainable solutions. Although Nepal's Constitution guarantees equal rights to all citizens, the highly marginalized Chepang community still lacks access to basic civil rights. 26-year-old Kanchimaya Praja from Hetauda 14, born with a disability, has not received social security allowances. Similarly, 19-year-old Ashok Praja from Hetauda 15 cannot access social benefits because he does not have citizenship. According to a survey by National Human Rights Commission, about 9% of Chepang citizens in Raksirang, Mokwanpur are deprived of citizenship. Without citizenship, they are also denied voting rights and social security benefits. Despite federal efforts, most Chepang people are unaware of the budget and programs intended for their benefit. The Chepang Association notes that government services and information have not reached remote areas. As of 2021, the Chepang population is 84,364. Experts say that unless doorstep information, mobile services and community-based monitoring are implemented, the Chepang community will continue to be unable to fully enjoy the rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Time now for another short break. You are watching NTV World. Welcome back to Primetime News. Ukraine has condemned a fresh wave of Russian strikes overnight, which killed one person and injured 23 others. As talks with the US aimed at ending the war are set to resume, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said the brutal attack clinically ordered by Russian leader Vladimir Putin had hit not only our people but also the negotiation table. Meanwhile, delegations from Russia, Ukraine and the US have been meeting in Abu Dhabi for the first trilateral talks since the Kremlin launched a full-scale invasion of its neighbor in 2022. The first known direct contact between Ukrainian and Russian officials on the proposal began on Friday. Ukraine's chief negotiator, Rustem Umerov, said the discussions focused on the parameters for ending Russia's war and the further logic of the negotiation process. An initial US draft drew heavy criticism in Kyiv and Western Europe for heaving too closely to Moscow's line, while later iterations prompted pushback from Russia for floating the idea of European peacekeepers. Both sides say the fate of territory in the eastern Donbas region is one of the main outstanding issues in the search for a settlement to a war that has killed tens of thousands, displaced millions, and decimated parts of Ukraine. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer denounced that insulting Donald Trump's claim that British troops avoided the front line in Afghanistan amid widespread anger at the US president's remarks.
And so I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country.
The US will offer more limited support to allies according to the Pentagon's new national defense strategy. In a significant shift to its security priorities, the US Department of Defense now considers security of the US homeland and Western Hemisphere, not China, as its primary concern. Previous versions of the strategy, published every 4 years, named the threat posed by China as the top defense priority. Relations with China will now be approached through strength, not confrontation, the report says. The defense strategy reinforces recent calls from President Donald Trump, including for greater burden sharing from allies in countering threats posed by Russia and North Korea. A landslide killed at least 8 people and more than 80 are missing on Indonesia's main island of Java. triggered by heavy rainfall. It struck 2 villages in Java's West Bangdung region and buried residential areas. The local research and rescue agency said it was conducting manual excavation, spraying the soil with water pumps and using drones to search for the victims. The disaster follows flooding and landslides late last year that killed about 1,200 people and displaced more than 240,000 in Indonesia's Sumatra island, according to official figures. Environmentalists and experts have pointed to role forest loss played in the flooding and landslides that washed torrents of mud into villages. Floods and landslides are common in Indonesia during the rainy season, which typically runs from October to March. Hundreds of businesses in the U.S. state of Minnesota closed and thousands of protesters turned out in severe cold weather to demonstrate against the ongoing immigration crackdown in the state. The operation, ongoing for over 6 weeks, targets individuals deemed criminals by the Trump administration. Through authorities noted migrants with no criminal record and U.S. citizens have also been affected. Authorities say the raids have heightened tensions following the killing of a Minneapolis woman, disrupted daily life, and caused economic harm as workers fear leaving home. School officials reported that children, including a 2-year-old, were detained alongside parents. Time again for a short break. Thailand's former Prime Minister Abhisit has launched his campaign for Thailand's February 8 general election campaigning at a morning market in Bangkok as leader of the Conservative Democrat Party. Abhisit, who previously led the country during a violent military crackdown on red shirts protesters, was reinstated as party leader last year after stepping down in 2019. He emphasized his focus on reviving economic growth and restoring integrity in Thai politics, saying he is determined to lead the country out of a decade of low economic growth and to have politics back with integrity. The February election is expected to test the strength of Thailand's traditional conservative parties against emerging populist and progressive movements. The Beijing International Commercial Space Exhibition opened this week, featuring more than 300 companies and institutions from the aerospace industry. The exhibition provides a platform for firms to display cutting-edge space technologies and explore partnerships in the expanding global aerospace market. Exhibitors noted increased participation and completion in the sector. The exhibition aims to highlight technological advancement in commercial space, foster collaboration between domestic and international firms, and attract investment in the growing aerospace market. Murray, a popular hill station located about 60 kilometers north of Pakistani capital Islamabad, is witnessing a surge in visitors as snowfall blankets the area during the winter season. Snowfall is rare in most parts of Pakistan, occurring primarily in northern and western mountainous regions. Murray's snowfall season remains a key attraction for domestic tourism, drawing visitors from across Pakistan each winter. Authorities have urged visitors to exercise caution on slippery roads and follow safety guidelines as heavy tourist influxes have previously caused traffic congestion and minor accidents in the area. The sports update. Nepal registered its first win in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier by thrashing Zimbabwe, thanks to half-century contributions of Pooja Mahato to the Nepal team, in match played at the TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur of Kathmandu today. Nepal defeated Zimbabwe by 6 wickets, chasing the target of 130 runs given by Zimbabwe. Nepal fulfilled the target in 19.3 overs as the loss of 4 wickets. Nepal's Pooja Mahato made the highest 52 runs in 50 balls, including 4 fours and 2 sixes. Likewise, Nepali captain Indu Burma made 22 runs and Bindu Raul made 15 runs and Sita Rana Magar collected 11 runs for the team. Josephine took 2 wickets and Christabel and Nombelo took equal 1 each for the team Zimbabwe. Nepal national men's cricket team has registered an impressive victory against Sri Lanka, registered in its third and final practice match. Nepal defeated the Sri Lanka A team by 7 wickets, ending their practice games on a high note, having lost the first 2 warm-up matches. Nepal bounced back with a confident performance in the final game, chasing a target of 133 set by Sri Lanka A. Nepal reached the total in 16.2 overs for the loss of 3 wickets. Kushal Malla played a key role in the win, scoring a brisk 49 runs off 35 balls. The Nepal versus Sri Lanka practice match have been held as part of preparations for the upcoming ICC Men's T20 World Cup to be held jointly by India and Sri Lanka in February. Novak Djokovic escaped the heat and beat Dutchman Potik van de Zandschulp 6-3, 6-4, 7-6 at the Australian Open to reach the 4th round during his bid for a standalone 25th Grand Slam title. With his 102nd match victory at Melbourne, the evergreen Serb equaled 6 times champion Roger Federer's record at the year's first major and also became the first player to secure 400 wins at the Grand Slams. Djokovic will face rising American talent Ben Shelton in the 4th round, aiming to maintain his dominance at Melbourne Park, where he was now won 10 Australian Open titles. We are almost end of the prime time bulletin, but before we wind up, here's a look at our top stories one more time. Heavy snowfall blankets several high-altitude regions of Nepal. Farmers rejoice. Daily life, however, faces disruption. Election Commission of Nepal says printing of 5 million ballot papers for the proportional representation electoral system remaining as now. Nepal signs a landmark agreement to receive climate finance of $55 million US, also becomes first Asian country of access climate finance deal. Ukraine condemns fresh wave of Russian strikes. Attack comes as trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi set to resume. Heavy rain-induced landslide kills at least 8 and over 80 missing in Indonesia's main island of Java. Rescue underway. And Nepal beats Zimbabwe in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier. Men's cricket team registers win over Sri Lanka A in final practice match. That is all for the moment here on NTV World Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest update from our official website www.nepaltelevision.com. I am Suveksha. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries.
Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Nepal, a land of unparalleled natural beauty and rich heritage. Tucked in the heart of Himalayas, this small yet mighty country is a living tapestry of religious, cultural and historical significance. The capital city of Kathmandu sits like a jewel at the crossroads of time, surrounded by towering peaks and the lush landscapes of Kathmandu Valley. The vibrant city is home to a unique blend of cultural families, each deeply rooted in the traditions that have shaped Nepal for centuries. Kathmandu is a city where history, religion and art are not just preserved but actively celebrated. This city is also the proud home to 7 of the world's most significant cultural heritage sites, all of which are recognized by UNESCO. For centuries, the people of Nepal have dreamed of sharing their nation's unique story with the world. And Nepal and its people have captured the world's attention and admiration. It is a place that draws people from every corner of the globe, inspiring awe with its ancient temples, stunning architecture, and deeply rooted spiritual legacy. In 1989, UNESCO declared 3 historical zones in Kathmandu as World Heritage Sites, including 2 Buddhist stupas and 2 Hindu temples. One such remarkable site is the Hanuman Thoka Darbar Square, a historical treasure located in the heart of Kathmandu Valley. The legacy of ancient kings is written in every stone of this sacred ground. From the reign of King Ratna Malla to that of mighty King Bir Bikram, Hanuman Dhoka has been a central figure in the cultural and political life of Nepal. Here, the temple of Taleju, Jagannath, Shiva Parvati, the massive Thulo Ghanta, Kal Bhairav Shrine, Maiju Devo, and the Kumari Kal are among the most important landmarks. The intricacy of the temples, the carvings, the statues, and the entire architectural composition bear witness to the authenticity and craftsmanship of Nepalese art. The preservation of these artifacts is crucial as many of them are unique to Nepal and cannot be found anywhere else in the world. Each day, hundreds of international tourists visit this place not only to witness its beauty, but also to learn about its cultural and historical significance. Many scholars and academics visit Kathmandu to study the profound artistic and architectural heritage found in the city. Another historical gem is the Patan Darbar Square, an ancient palace complex that dates back to Malla dynasty. Located in the city of Patan, which is also known as the City of Art, the square is a testament to the creativity and devotion of Malla kings. Built during the 17th and 18th centuries, Patan's magnificent temples and palaces were commissioned by King Siddhi Narsingh, King Srinivas and King Yoganendra Malla, whose influence is still visible in the area's grand architecture. Some of Patan's most famous landmarks include Mool Chowk, Sundari Chowk, Bhimsen Mandir, Krishna Mandir, Taleju and Kumbheshwar Mandir. Among these, Sundari Chowk is an attraction in itself, and nearby Tusa Hiti Dhara, a traditional water spout, adds an authentic touch to the cultural experience. The Krishna Mandir, built in the distinct Shikhara style, is another highlight. This temple is particularly famous for its stone carvings depicting scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, an absolute visual feast for visitors. For centuries, Patan has stood as a symbol of artistic excellence.
The Rato Machinanath Jatra, a festival celebrated not only as the pride of Lalitpur but also recognized globally for its cultural significance, had just concluded. This year, beginning on May 18, we launched a 40-day campaign showcasing the grandeur of the procession. The participation throughout the festival was truly encouraging. Last year, we welcomed around 200,000 visitors. This year, by mid-June alone, the footfall has already surpassed 225,000. This achievement fills us with immense pride, while also reminding us that there is still much more to accomplish. We currently offer a guided tour from Patan Dhoka to museum, completely free of cost, with the aim of establishing our heritage as a living part of our collective identity. Patan Museum has long been committed to safeguarding both the tangible and intangible cultural heritage of this region. It serves not only as a local exhibition space, but as a vital destination dedicated to preserving and celebrating the culture of this historic city. Our tangible inheritances, many of them dating back to the Lichavi era, stand as remarkable non-living heritage, while our festivals, rituals and processions embody the vibrancy of our living traditions. Both forms of heritage are invaluable to us. It is our responsibility to protect them, nurture them, and ensure they pass down to the future generations with the same reverence with which we receive them. International tourists travel to Nepal to experience the richness of our natural and cultural heritage. Our historical buildings, artifacts, sacred idols form an integral part of that experience. Many visitors take the time to explore, observe, and fully immerse themselves in the stories these treasures hold.
Established by the King Bardev, the city was originally known as Lalitpuri Adinath. It was not just the royal home, but the administrative heart of the region. The intricate woodwork, the timeless architecture, and the thriving cultural scene make Patan a perfect example of Nepal's historical richness. Bhaktapur, another ancient city, takes its place among the jewels of Nepal. Known for its stunning art, culture and architecture, Bhaktapur is a city that has preserved its medieval charm. According to Gopal Ra's genealogy, the city was established by King Anandadev. The Bhaktapur Darbar Square is one of the most captivating sites, with attractions like Singhadwar, Swarnadwar, Chardham and Nyatapol Mandir. Among these, the Pachmanna Jhale Darbar, or the palace with 55 windows, stands out as an iconic symbol of Bhaktapur's rich history. This palace, originally built during King Yakshamalla's reign and later reconstructed by King Bhupatendra in the 17th century, is one of the finest examples of the Malla period's architectural prowess. The art gallery within the palace is also a significant attraction for tourists and art lovers. The cultural heritage of Bhaktapur is alive and well.
Now we are in Bhaktapur and we are very surprised about the city. It's like incredible. Imagine that from how long this city has been with human beings and culture around. So we are very impressed. Probably it's one of the most beautiful cities that we ever seen. The construction, the architecture is very nice. The bricks, that is like all the city made from bricks and wood. And the people also is very happy, very friendly. You can move easily from anywhere because they have transport for everywhere. Take a long time be in the road because the roads are not so good, but you can do to any place. So it's very easy to move. It's very beautiful to see, and it's very satisfied for your heart. This kind of culture.
Bhaktapur, who is one of the most beautiful cities that I never seen before. It's a very ancient city. Some temples were constructed like in 12th century. So you feel like in other time, and you can walk a lot of days, and you can see the smile of the people, the street, this history. So we are very impressed and happy to came to this country. Every day I send pictures to them, to my family, and they are so impressive too. I think that this country is a very complete country to spend a holiday or a long trip, wherever you can do. You can be in different parts with different views and history and culture. So I invite to all you to come to Nepal and enjoy this beautiful place.
From the Kumals who craft their signature mud products to the intricate wooden crafts that define the city, Bhaktapur offers a window into traditional lifestyle of the Malla era. The famous black cap, Bhatgaule Topi, worn by Nepali men, also originates here, a small yet meaningful piece of cultural pride. On the spiritual front, Pashupatinath Temple is one of the most revered religious sites in Nepal and across the Hindu world. The temple, built in pagoda style, stands as a beacon of faith for millions of Hindus worldwide. It is believed that a pilgrimage to Pashupatinath is equivalent to visiting 4 sacred dhams of India. Built by King Bhupatendra Malla, this temple serves as a center of worship for a diverse array of spiritual communities, including Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs, and others. The Pashupatinath complex is rich with temples, shrines, and sacred sites, each one steeped in centuries of religious history. One of the most significant festivals here is Shivaratri, a grand celebration of Lord Shiva that attracts thousands of devotees from around the world. Every year, during the special month of Shravan, the temple hosts vibrant rituals and ceremonies, drawing pilgrims to witness these sacred observances. The surrounding Slaes-Mantak forest adds to the serene atmosphere of Pashupatinath. The temple's unique wooden structures, gilded pinnacles, and the bronze statue of Nandi at the entrance all contribute to the spiritual ambience. The daily evening lighting ceremony at the Pashupatinath is a tranquil and profound experience for both locals and international visitors alike. Swambhunath, also known as the Monkey Temple, is another spiritual landmark in Kathmandu. Perched atop the Padmakantagiri hill, this ancient stupa offers sweeping views of the entire valley. The temple is especially important for Buddhists who revere it as a place of profound spiritual significance. Legends say it was here that the Bipasri Buddha meditated, marking the beginning of Kathmandu Valley's spiritual foundation. Swambhunath's 2 all-seeing eyes, which watch over the valley, are a powerful symbol of justice and wisdom. Visitors who climb the 365 steps to reach the stupa are greeted not only by the temple's beauty, but by the entire history of Nepal, etched in every stone and statue. The region also houses a museum and a library, both offering further insight into Nepal's religious and cultural past. Equally impressive is the Bodhanath Stupa, one of the largest in South Asia. Built in the 5th century, the stupa is a testament to Nepal's enduring connection to Tibetan Buddhism. The legend surrounding Bodhanath's construction is as captivating as its physical presence. It is said that the king, upon being asked if the stupa could be built, mistakenly replied in the affirmative, leading to the creation of this sacred monument. Bodhanath has become a hub for the Tibetan Buddhist community, especially during Losar festival, celebrated by Sherpa people. Its significance stretches beyond Nepal, linking the country to broader Buddhist world. The Changunarayan temple, located on the outskirts of Bhaktapur, is another example of Nepal's ancient cultural heritage. Built in the 4th century BCE, it is one of the oldest Hindu temples in Kathmandu Valley. Its intricate woodwork, stunning carvings and inscriptions make it a true architectural marvel. Dedicated to Lord Vishnu, the temple is a site of pilgrimage for Hindus and is also renowned for its artistry and craftsmanship. Kathmandu's heritage is not just a relic of the past, it is a living, breathing part of the city's identity. Both the local government and the people of Nepal continue to prioritize the preservation and promotion of these ancient sites, welcoming visitors from around the world to explore and appreciate the rich cultural and historical legacy of this beautiful land. Dai Lake in Karnali province is a geographically remote district, yet rich with untapped potential for tourism. Stepping into Dai Lake, celebrated as a treasure trove of Khas art, culture and heritage, brings a unique sense of joy. Journey begins amid its natural beauty, leading us toward Mahabu Rural Municipality. As we leave the mid-hill highway, the terrain becomes challenging, with hilly, muddy roads demanding patience and skill. Long lines of vehicles crawl carefully along the cliffs, reflecting both the difficulty of the route and the enduring devotion of Mahabu Dham. Many travelers choose to continue on foot, advancing step by step toward their destination. Passing through Channa, Dasarathi, Okharbanz, Bhavsaini, Noli and Unipata, pilgrims ascend the slopes toward Lisni before finally reaching Mahabu Patan. Pilgrims from Dai Lake and nearby districts often arrive late at night, having begun their journey the previous day. The path to Mahabu Dham is thrilling, adventurous and breathtaking, made even more dramatic by the steady rain, drifting fog and steep inclines. Yet the journey itself feels uniquely rewarding. Mahabu Lake or Mahabu Dham, located within Mahabu Rural Municipality, is a remarkable place of natural beauty, religious significance and cultural heritage. Situated at an altitude of 4,200 meters, the area is adorned with emerald lakes, grazing flocks of sheep and goats, and a sky that dances with Himalayan mist. Every year, during Janai Purnima, a grand fair is held here, drawing thousands of devotees from across the region. Mahabu Dham's spiritual importance is deeply rooted in the ancient worship of Lord Shiva, revered here as the origin site. From Mahabu Lake, visitors can enjoy magnificent views of Api and Sai Palhimal, and on clear days, even the plains of Bardia. Given its religious importance and natural splendor, Mahabu Dham holds immense potential as a religious tourism destination. Improving the rough, narrow access roads is essential for supporting this growth. Mahabu Dham is more than a pilgrimage site. It is a confluence of culture, history, faith and nature. To truly appreciate its significance, one must visit Mahabu Lake at least once, immerse oneself in its natural beauty, and experience the serene environment that leaves a lasting impression.
Intermittent playing hide-and-seek with the folk, enchanting one's heart with the sight of fully bloomed rhododendrons, and rejoicing in the lap of nature with the chirping of the birds. When you set foot in Sandakpur, you experience a wonderful feeling of heavenly bliss right here on earth. Due to the ever-changing weather and the snow-white mountains visible right in front of your eyes, Sandakpur constantly draws everyone's heart towards it. As a habitat for numerous species of birds and endangered wildlife, Sandakpur always leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all. Situated at an altitude of 3,636 meters above the sea level, Sandakpur is located at Ward 2 and 4 of Sandakpur Rural Municipality in Nepal's eastern Ilam district. Embracing the mountains of Nepal, India and Bhutan, Sandakpur is the only place in South Asia where one can observe the Himalayas of all three countries. While enjoying the Himalayan settlements, one can observe the sunrise and sunset from Sandakpur. It is the only place in Nepal from where over 60 mountain peaks, including the Mount Everest, Kanchenjunga, Makalu, Pathivara and Kumbhakarna, can be seen from one spot. Being the source of the holy Mai River, one of the 4 major rivers in Ilam, Sandakpur is also revered from a religious standpoint, attracting pilgrims from Sandakpur Ridge. The settlements of Ilam, Jhapa and West Bengal of India seem so close that it feels like you could hold them in the palm of your hand. The crimson glow of the sun rising from the Bay of Bengal in the morning, glittering upon the mountains. The joy of witnessing this form such a height is majestic. That is why in winter for the snow and during the monsoon for the rain, the number of visitors from both home and abroad to Sandakpur is on the rise. Among the different species of rhododendrons found in Nepal, 36 can be spotted just along the Sandakpur trek. The rhododendrons blooming all over the forest captivate every heart. With the chirping of birds, the cliffside honeybees, and the opportunity to study endangered species like the red panda, vultures, while enjoying nature, Sandakpur journey has captivated trekkers from around the world. Every year, more than 150,000 tourists from India, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Europe visit Sandakpur. Known as the Bird's Eye Place, Sandakpur was declared a one province, one cultural village by Nepal government in 2018. However, the place still awaits infrastructures like drinking water, electricity and proper trekking trails. Sandakpur can be reached after a 42-kilometer ride from the Ilam headquarters via Mai Pokhari and Kalu Pokhari. Another route to Sandakpur is from Ilam Bazar via Biblate, Sulubung, Mabu and Kalu Pokhari. When trekking to Sandakpur, the highest point of the Mahabharata range, the joy of staying in the homestays and hotels along the way while savoring local cuisine is immeasurable. While forging a connection with the Himalayan settlements, enjoying herbs and local produce, and playing in the snow in winter and the rain during the monsoon, you must visit Sandakpur at least once in your life.
For centuries, the Kumail community of Nepal has lived closely tied to the earth, shaping clay, cultivating land, and sustaining a cultural identity rooted in indigenous skill, craft, and tradition. Recognized as one of Nepal's marginalized indigenous nationalities, the Kumails traditionally settle in the hilly regions and inner Tarai plains. Cultural practices and oral histories indicate that they have been part of Nepal's civilization since ancient times. As inhabitants of Nepal's fertile river valleys and plains, the Kumals have carried forward a deep-rooted tradition of earthenware craftsmanship, agriculture, and a rich cultural heritage that reflects centuries of resilience and adaptation. Their pottery has been more than household utility. It has been a marker of identity, livelihood, and cultural continuity. Today, as modern vessels replace handmade earthen vessels, the Kumals find themselves preserving not only a profession but a heritage passed down through generations. According to an ancient belief, clay work began at the time of creation when Prajapati, the son of Brahma, molded the first earthen vessel using Sudarshan Chakra of Lord Vishnu. The Sanskrit term Kumbhakar, meaning pot maker, gradually transformed, becoming Kumhar and eventually Kumal. Even today, pottery remains spiritually and culturally significant for the community. In Kumal settlements, soil is not just the ground beneath their feet. It is raw material, cultural memory, and a symbol of survival. The Kumal population is spread mainly across central Tarai districts of Nepal, namely across Lumbini, Gandaki, and Bagmati provinces. Traditionally, they rely on two main occupations, agriculture and pottery. Farms provided daily sustenance, while pottery supported household needs and served as a source of income. Community life historically revolved around extended family systems, with shared labor, collective participation in rituals, and a strong sense of belonging to ancestral land. Pottery for the Kumals is a detailed, multi-stage skill passed down through generations. The process begins with identifying the right soil. Black clay, the Kalo Matu, was traditionally preferred for its strength and texture. It was collected near riverbanks, ponds, and settled waterbeds. Among Tharu Kumals, this clay is also known as Kamaune Matu, meaning clay that earns. Clay is soaked, softened, and thoroughly kneaded. Using a tool called pasur, potters slice and cleanse the clay to remove impurities. In earlier times, bamboo tools were used instead of iron. The prepared clay is stored covered, maintaining moisture for shaping. The chakra or potter's wheel remains central to Kumal identity. Hands center the clay, fingers guide it, and experience shapes it. Tools like thap and pitani help refine form and smooth surface. Large vessels, water jars, grand pots, cooking pots, and ritual vessels were once part of every Nepali household, each bearing the touch of Kumal craftsmanship. Freshly formed pots are cut from the wheel with thread or leaf strips and set to dry, first in shade to prevent cracks, then under the sun. A reddish clay called Kabish Matu is applied for finish and strength. The firing structure, Awa or Auri, is built from wood, straw, husk, and cow dung. Pots are stacked carefully, forming a dome-like structure covered with hay and soil. The firing process takes up to 3 days. The Kumals maintain rich intangible heritage through customs, rituals, music and dance. The Keli dance is one of the most distinctive cultural expressions of the Kumals. Traditionally performed by men dressed as women, it is associated with community celebrations and spiritual belief. The performance concludes with blessings for the household hosting the event. Marriage traditionally takes place within the community, though intercaste marriage, particularly with Magar communities, has become common.
Ada nen budi ciura. Dari pokke nen budi ciura. Pokke le budi ciura.
Samdi fight is also popular in this culture, where fathers of bride and groom go through a physical battle as a part of entertainment. A child's naming ceremony called Nwaran takes place on the 9th day for daughters and 11th day for sons, where a young unmarried girl narrates the name referred by the priest. Gon Ponni, a ritual where the mother burns bathing used during childbirth, is followed by baths. The child is then named and welcomed.
बोलाउने नाम आशिष कुमाल, देवताको नाम गोविन्द कुमाल, मेरो नाम सन्तोष कुमाल.
Grandmothers carry babies around the home, chasing the newborn with a catapult, symbolically granting strength and sealing belonging. That rites emphasize purity, remembrance and respect. The eldest son, or the one performing final rites, often standing inside a fishing net, performs final rites reflecting links to water-based livelihood and spiritual symbolism. Among the many Kumal rituals, ancestral worship, Kul Puja is considered the most important. It is performed in remembrance of those deceased in the family and is also known as Pitri Puja. The Kul Puja honors ancestors annually, while the worship of Singh Devata, urn-shaped forest deities, highlights ties to nature and livestock protection. The Kumal people speak their own indigenous language, Kumal, which belongs to the Tibeto-Burman family. However, due to increasing influence of Nepali language and modernization, the use of Kumal language has been declining, and community efforts continue to revive it through cultural programs and schools. Most Kumals practice Hinduism, worshipping deities such as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and local protective gods and goddesses. Ancestral worship and belief in nature spirits hold deep cultural importance. Traditional attire for men includes white clothing and the dhaka topi, while women wear black blouses, traditional skirts, and red shawls, often adorned with local jewelry. With industrial materials such as aluminum, steel, and plastic replacing clay vessels, the demand for traditional pottery has sharply declined. Many Kumal families have moved to agriculture, labor, service work, or small businesses. Modern education and new employment opportunities are reshaping the choices of younger generations. Their hands do not merely shape clay, they sculpt culture, memory, and the foundation of Nepal's artistic soul. The Kumal community stands at a historic crossroads between tradition and modernity, memory and transition. Their identity is closely tied to clay, yet their future relies on adapting to changing socio-economic landscapes. Their story is not only about pottery, but resilience of a people who shaped Nepal's culture long before industry and technology. The preservation of Kumal heritage is not a matter of nostalgia. It is a recognition of indigenous knowledge, cultural diversity, and history shaped by hands that turn earth into life. If the story of Nepal is one of civilizations formed by soil and river, then the Kumal legacy will always remain at its foundation.
Some moments define a nation, some moments test it. Tonight in Geopod, we discuss those very moments. I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnet. For democracies, transitions are milestones. For states, they are moments of risk. Authority fragments, uncertainty expands, and hesitation carries a cost. Nepal is in one such moment, in a world less tolerant of ambiguity, especially for small states. Tonight on Geopod, we're not discussing politics. We are examining authority in transition. And joining me is security analyst Jianrong Thapa, and we begin with a simple but uncomfortable question. Is Nepal managing this transition, or simply moving through it, hoping for the best? Welcome to the show, Mr. Thapa.
Thank you so much.
As an expert of security, as you are, from security perspective, transitions are moments when authority is rather shared, borrowed, or sometimes contested, right? So, who in Nepal holds the clear authority to decide, act, and enforce, or where does that authority become uncertain?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. Second, let me begin with a disclaimer. So I'm not here, I don't represent any groups or organizations, so whatever I say here are my personal viewpoints. The second part about my disclaimer is I'm not here to tell you the truth. I'm here to tell you, share with you my perspective. Because as you know, truth has various gradients. Your truth, my truth, the absolute truth, the temporary truth, right?
And multiple truths.
Multiple truths. And so I'll just share with you some of my perspectives based on my education, my experience. So in terms of transition, the transitional authority, I think we need to first examine where authority is derived, at least from a state-centric perspective. There's a constitutional element to it. There's sometimes a legal element to it. Sometimes there's moral authority. But most of the times, state has something called the monopoly of force. The social contract between the governed and the government is derived from that social contract. And the social contract usually has that element of force. At the moment, I think the way we need to look at it, whatever happened, the Zenzi revolt and the subsequent government that was formed, I think you were trying to ask me about that. So if you examine that process, the way I think we should look at it is internally, I think the government has been accepted. Internationally, it's been recognized. But constitutionally, it's not recognized. So that's the state of authority of the government at this point. The monopoly of violence or force, I think, still rests with the army and the security forces because they're still existent, they're still functional. But there's this very ambiguous nature in terms of who authorizes the monopoly of violence. The best way to describe that is the position or the portfolio of the chief district officer, right? Because we have debated, discussed about the Zenzi revolt, and we've always questioned who actually authorized the police to fire upon the protesters. And the accusation or the allegation has been leveled against the CDO. So there is this ambiguity and that level of question mark, especially in terms of where does the CDO come in and whether the CDO is actually recognized by our constitution or not. So there are these blurry lines, but there are also these distinct features such as the internal acceptance and the international recognition.
How much ambiguity itself is a risk to vulnerability to a state, Mr. Thapa?
It is because it's based on acceptance. The way the state functions is whoever governs has to have a majority acceptance rate. The majority has to accept whoever governs. So that social contract is derived from the acceptance by the governed. At this point, it is very difficult to tell because we cannot calibrate what is the level of acceptance at this point. There was a revolt. There was apparently an online selection process. We don't know how it was done. But there was a distillation process that brought a candidate to the fore, and that person was selected and was later appointed as the prime minister. And then that prime minister went on to select few other ministers. So that has been the process. For example, the previous entities or people that were part of the government have repeatedly said, some of them have recognized it, others have not recognized it. I think that's the status quo at this point. But like I said, internally it's, I think, more or less accepted. Internationally it's been more or less recognized.
So a lot of water has flown after all those episodes that we were witness to, right? If you look around, just to pan through, there's a lot of caution in the air.
Sure.
Amongst, in and around all these stakeholders. So just out of curiosity, what does the security lens say? At what point does institutional caution stop stabilizing the system and rather, weakens it?
If I got your question right, you're asking about how the institutions are looking at the situation.
How
right?
much caution is okay for a system to work?
I think caution is not the right word. I think preparation is the right word for a system, because when you look at a system, the system prepares for these scenarios, anticipates change, and anticipates the threats that bedevil our system. So the institutions are built to anticipate these changes, these upheavals, these also look at the opportunities that actually arise from the contextual changes. So I think the best way to sort of describe the institutional framework in terms of anticipating our future is preparation. Are our institutions prepared for it? To a certain extent. Some of them are, some of them aren't, I think. But the most prepared and the most endowed institution is definitely the Nepali Army. We saw that quite clearly during the Gen Z revolt as well. The level of professionalism, the level of restraint, the level of mobilization, and the level of outcome that was that we witnessed was unprecedented. One thing that I can basically attest to is the fact that the Nepali Army has always been our crisis manager in every single crisis, and it has gotten us out of all these crises. If you go back to 2015, during the blockade, it was the military diplomacy that got us out of the blockade. And right before that was a major earthquake. The army deployed within 30 minutes because everyone was assembled at the army headquarters when our bureaucracy was missing, our political class was missing, every other entity of the government was missing, but the army, along with two of the sister organizations, came to the fore. COVID, if you look at COVID was a massive crisis for us. The army got us out of that crisis in multiple ways, all the way from dead body management, because it's not the role of the army to do dead body management. It shouldered that responsibility because no one else was willing to take it, right? It was a very scary prospect, but they shouldered that. But the one thing that basically tells us, even during COVID, that the army became the most reliable institution was when the three major powers, the ambassadors, the envoys of all three major powers, were hell-bent on providing their assistance to the army chief rather than to the Ministry of Health or the Prime Minister's office. The Chinese, the Americans, and the Indians would not give the COVID assistance to anybody within the government, but only to the army chief, because they said, if we don't give it to the army, this assistance is going to go to waste. Then fast forward to the Gen Z revolt. The level of professionalism that they demonstrated during that episode is something that the world is studying today. Not a single bullet was fired during that whole episode. Not one looting, not one excessive use of force. But they got us out of it within like 48 hours after all that took place. So I think Army as an institution, I think I've always maintained that they're prepared better than the others. But also they also have a lot of gaps, I think, in terms of, especially in terms of the capability gaps. The Army, I don't think, has been provided vehicles for the last 7 years. Our air assets we're quite lacking in that front. So, but overall, I think it's the preparation.
The kind of picture that you portray right now, not everybody shares the same view, right?
Sure.
So if you could shed more light on this, where exactly or when exactly a line is drawn as to when to act? Because in situations like this, you know, there is always this big dilemma for any state or for any institutions as to when to act. Sometimes earlier action causes consequences.
Sure.
Sometimes a delayed one causes consequences. So what is there anything in black and white that draws that line as to when that action should begin?
It's about decision making, right? This whole process is about when do you make the decisions and what do you make, what brings you to that decision point, I think is the main question. So when the state or the institutions act, they act on certain premises. For example, assumptions. They're based on assumptions. And they're also based on options, right? So the way the decision making is made, at least at the government level, is you have certain assumptions, you have certain options, and there are consequences to all of those options or those assumptions. So whoever decides, ultimately decides based on these three variables. The other part about decision making is we as humans, we make decisions almost on a daily basis. For example, my decision to come here to give an interview is based on a certain assumption and based on a certain consequence. But those that are part of the greater strategic decision-making circle, they need to have that level of training, that education, that experience, so that they are able to decide on our behalf at those critical moments. And the decision-making is always, I think, based on, it's on accountability as well. You have to be accountable to the people. And it has to be proportionate, right? And also cost-effective. So every decision has a cost associated with it. You cannot make a decision that will cost too much to the state, to our treasury, not just in terms of the money, but also in terms of the outcomes. So there isn't actually like a finite way of decision making. It's just based on these three variables, which change because the assumptions can change, the consequences can change, and the options can change. So it's really depends on all of these factors combined. I think the cumulative result of all of this.
Who ultimately decides when restraints give way to intervention? Is it political leadership or is it the security command? What does a standard practice or our national policy premise say?
So usually there's something called a national security culture. Every state should have one. We unfortunately don't have one. There's something called a National Security Council, which is right across from the studio. But it has remained dormant for ever since, meaning we don't have that national security culture. We did appoint a national security advisor some months ago, but then he resigned, and that's the end of it. The policy making, the decisions are basically it's a two-way street because decisions are based on the assumption and the options provided by the security institutions. For example, the Prime Minister is not going to be aware of everything that happens in the country, so he has to be fed by the system, and the system is the institutions that actually gather that and analyze it and then present it to them. So it's a two-way street. I don't think it's the Prime Minister is calling the shots all the time, or it's the security institutions bulldozing their agenda. So it's, I think, somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's a finite, distinct line in that. But in a democratic society, it's always the elected officials that ultimately are supposed to call the shots based on
apparatus together, right?
Yes.
That's exactly what you meant. Now, from the security doctrine perspective, was this restraint again a deliberate strategic choice?
I mean, it's very difficult to sort of come to a conclusion because we don't have evidence in terms of what actually happened behind the closed doors. But from what we witnessed on that day, I think it was a strategic choice that was made, strategic restraint that actually enabled whatever happened after that, consequently. Because There were a lot of ambiguities. From what I've heard, the decision-making was not, at least from the Prime Minister's level. For example, what I heard was the Prime Minister was advised that this was coming, so a curfew at an earlier hour possibly could have avoided that. Him going on the national television basically apologizing or, owning to that particular incident, the prior incident. And more than that, I think it's the failure of the intelligence apparatus as well, and the political circle, especially the Prime Minister and the people in the government, not subscribing to the intelligence reports that were fed previously, saying that this day was all forthcoming, one way or the other. From what I know from my sources, I think the army and the intelligence had at one point, or had been telling the government that we could be facing another round of revolt or this kind of episode, since we had seen some things that happened in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So it was going almost like a full circle. And it could eventually come because there was a lot of resentment, a lot of grievances. But it seems like the people did not heed to those intelligence reports. And this is what we saw. But I think going back to what you asked me about restraint, I think it was a strategic choice, which if you look at it now, has enabled us, especially you and I, to sit together and have this interview in this manner. Or else I don't know what would have happened after that. I mean, I'm glad to see that the studio still remains intact, whereas some of the buildings were burnt in the front, I think. But that was a result of a conscious choice that was made by the Nepalese army and the manner in which they mobilized. So thanks to them.
So you as a security analyst would term it a strategy gone right?
I would say so, because I think there's been a lot of allegation, especially against the army, saying that they were not able to safeguard or protect a lot of these vital installations, why they were not able to do that. I think we're asking the wrong question. The question we need to be asking is, how could an army of a third world country operate in a manner where they were able to stabilize the most destructive episode in our national history within like 48 hours, give the power back to the civilians, stabilize the situation, and not have any other untoward incident after they stabilize the situation? How were they able to do it? What allowed them not to have that power lust? What allowed the soldiers not to be trigger happy? What allowed that level of restraint and professionalism after such an opportunity, which landed in the chief's lap? Meaning, had it been any other country, which we have seen in Africa, the power has been grabbed by the military leaders. But how is it that a country or a military of the size, the scope, be able to deliver this unprecedented sort of outcome? This is unprecedented in terms of global history. And as far as I know, many militaries around the world today, and I can tell you with utmost confidence and conviction, that they are studying the Nepalese army's stabilization effort throughout the world. We're just asking the wrong question. Because yes, there were loopholes, there were shortcomings, of course there were. But overall, the outcome they were able to deliver to this country is absolutely unprecedented.
Fast forward to today, this moment, Mr. Thapa, when the nation is gathering itself, rising from the rubble or from a complete reset mode to gaining a little momentum, right? From security point of view, certainly planning is ultimately about prioritization, because if you prioritize everything, none truly becomes, right? So if you were advising the state today at this moment, what would you identify as the strongest, most serious security risk during this phase of transition?
So, there's a saying that Nepal has always been in this perpetual loop of transitions. So the first thing is, the risk is always that we will go into another transition. There's always a risk of that. But I've identified a few risks, which are both internal and stem from external context as well. The first one is internal discord. The level of polarization that has taken place or is about to take place may bring us to a whole different level of threat landscape. So that's number one, the internal discord and polarization. Second is international influence, international imposition, and international intervention. That is something that we want to avoid at all costs. Influence is always there because of the money they give, because of their power, because of their leverage. Impositions do take place, but intervention is something we want to avoid at all costs. Because on that fateful night, had the Nepalese army failed to stabilize, the consequences we know what the consequences would have been. There were international forces ready to be dropped in and take over, right? So that's something we need to avoid. The other part is international isolation, which is something we need to avoid at all costs. We already know that visa restrictions are already happening because of what just happened. We need to avoid that international isolation because we need access to the world. The more access we have, that brings us more security. And international investment. We don't want international investors to, divest from our economy. We want more people to come in, invest freely, and we want more international investment to come in. There's also this thing I'm sure you've heard about, FATF. We're already on that gray list. We need to avoid getting on that blacklist because we're in this transition phase. Everything is, not steady. So hope the government focuses on that because if we get on the blacklist, then we're going to have a lot of difficulties. During transition, when the authority has eroded, there's always this element of criminality that comes in. So we want to avoid being a safe haven for criminals, terrorist groups, or any other nefarious groups that may be inimical to our national interest or the national interest of our neighbors.
How do you see this? Are the quieter structural risks being overlooked because visible unrest commands attention? At
this point, we do have a very combustible external environment. We also have a very combustible internal environment as well because the society is polarized in multiple fault lines. So we have, we have religious fault lines, we have regional fault lines, we have political fault lines. So the number of fault lines that afflict this particular nation and at this particular point are quite a few. And it comes also at a time when our public security system is at the weakest. Let's not forget the day when all our police personnel were, driven out of the police stations, chased out. Their guns were looted. Still, probably 500 still out in the streets. The inmates escaped, almost 14. So that's the context that we're currently operating. So that brings about a massive challenge that we have not sort of endured ever in our national history. And it's even worse than the time when the Maoists were there because on a single day, the level of displacement of the national police and the APF to a certain extent was massive. But there's also a good side to that story is in Bangladesh, a similar thing happened. But in Bangladesh, the police did not show up for almost a year. And the number of policemen that were killed after the uprising, they're estimating in thousands, right? So that public security system completely collapsed. Whereas in our case, the police, one of the most iconic pictures was this traffic policeman who came for his duty in his civis, right, in his civilian attire, because his uniform had been stolen or robbed, and he's doing his duty in flip-flops. That's the situation. Our police is back on track, but we also have a lot of shortcomings. The Nepal police is, I think, has a huge capability gap because for the police, it's about response. So when you ask the police to come, they have to respond, and for them to respond, they have to go to the place where the incident took place. And most of the vehicles have all been torched. The bikes have been torched. So now they have a huge capability gap in terms of response. And that's something we have not ever been able to fulfill very quickly. Even if you look at, from a public security point of view, the biggest risk is a traffic accident. The number of lives that are lost due to traffic accidents are the highest. At this point, most of our traffic policemen are in a very vulnerable stage because there's no traffic outpost for these guys. So they're in the middle of the street. They remain quite unprotected. So that's still, ongoing. But coming back to the police, I think their capability gap needs to be addressed very quickly, especially in terms of vehicles, in terms of other, equipment, gadgets, training, of course.
How do you weigh this, the street mobilization versus the institutional paralysis? How is this going to have a toll on the authorities at this point of time?
If you look back at our history, we have had these upheavals in the past, but we have not witnessed anything like this before, because we drafted a very inclusive, what we labeled it as a very inclusive constitution. But there are loopholes even in the constitution for scenarios like something like this. And let me give you an example. A prime minister can be changed if the prime minister dies, if he resigns, if he's voted out of office. But there's no scenario where a prime minister is chased out of his office or has to flee in a helicopter by a mob or by a crowd which is unhappy. So and then how do you sort of address that constitutionally? So I think there are these, as Donald Rumsfeld once used to say, we live in a world where there's known knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns, right? So I think we as a nation, we as a state, we need to have better preparation for those known unknowns and the unknown unknowns, because the more prepared you are for these unanticipated events, I think you can address them. So that level of scenario planning, that level of, but it all comes back to the national security culture, developing a national security culture that actually is constantly looking at threats upon our nation. Planning and informing our system, saying like, these are the threats that we're anticipating, we're enduring, and allowing people in the government to sort of be abreast about what's actually happening within the country and outside the country as well.
We're discussing the nature of the event and the transition, the event that led to this transition, very unprecedented, maybe not calculated at all by the state or any agencies, right? And one of the major characters was how digitally driven this was, and then a sort of a leaderless public movement. How does this change the state's traditional calculus of control and response? How do you think now the institutions, the major stakeholders will rise up to this occasion, because we are almost not even halfway through this transition?
One of the things that the state has to prepare for is to take into account that we as human beings, we as nationals now inhabit two different spaces. One is the physical space, and the other is the digital space. We have footprints that you can see, but we also have digital footprints that we need to be prepared to, sort of track down. So I think that's the context that we'll be operating in. And the digital domain is a lot more critical now, because your wealth, my wealth, is not in, the denominations are in data, right? So data is a big part of our national security architecture. We need to protect our data infrastructure, because our wealth is, for example, if you have 1,000 rupees, it's now in data. If someone with the ability to sort of intrude that infrastructure and erase that data makes you vulnerable, makes all of us vulnerable. So I think the state needs to plan, prepare for that, contingency that we now live in a dual space world where digital domain is also a very critical factor for every single human being.
How much are our institutions equipped to track and trace these footprints, and also to add to to track to understand the crowd dynamics of unidentified leadership? How equipped are we?
In our case, we are quite primitive in that front. Our cyber, we've always been sort of lobbying for something called a cyber command, where we look at cyber-related threats from a very unified point of view, where we bring the army, the police, the APF, the intelligence together, and come up with a very integrated form of, cyber threat identification and threat mitigation sort of approach. It's not there. Police has a cyber bureau which looks pretty much at crime when it happens, but it's very, it's not preventative. So it's more like a response point of view. If your system is hacked, then you, as someone that has been, whose data has been compromised, you'd go to police and report, and then they'll take action. But we don't have it in a manner where it is viewed from a national security perspective, saying like, what are the threats, cyber threats that could affect us? For example, I think yesterday or the day before, we heard that the National Election Commission's website was hacked, right? I mean, we're holding elections next very soon. The threat of someone intruding or our systems or altering our systems in favor of someone or against someone sort of completely distorts the outcome. So you can see the threat that sort of lies in front of us.
We are at the moment looking forward to the House of Representatives elections, right? And elections most often are seen as political solutions, and especially at transitional periods like this, certainly it's treated as an exit from uncertainty. But for security planners, they are also pressure points. While becoming an exit, can it also amplify risks?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I think the best way to look at elections, I think elections are events that are periodic. So, it's a cycle. It's not something that comes and goes completely away. It's periodic, so it's cyclical. And you need to understand the dynamics of what elections are all about. Elections are competitions, right? Between contestants, they're contestants, and they're competing for something. And what are they competing for? It's votes. And why do they compete for votes? Because those votes will sort of take these people into halls of power. And once you get to power, you have access to the treasury, you have the authority to make decisions. So it's a very critical commodity that everyone is vying for. And so inherently by nature, elections are supposed to be a competition. Competition can always lead to conflict, right? Any incidents can spiral out of control and sort of evolve into a crisis. So that's the dynamic of elections. But then we also need to take into account what elections have delivered to us in the past. We've had several rounds of elections, and if I may submit, we've probably had 16 governments in the past 16 years, right? Has that brought about stability? Probably not. So we've gone from one level of instability to another. And in fact, we have almost tried every concoction, political concoction in that spectrum. The right with the left with the center with the right. Every single permutation under the sun has been tried. And even the last permutation with the Nepali Congress and the UML, the two largest parties, which at one point was thought inconceivable, we saw that. And we saw what happened, right? So elections, I don't think will necessarily, what's the best way to put it? Will not necessarily bring about, good outcomes or sustainable outcomes. It can actually amplify risks. And the process of elections is also a very risk-laden process, because if you look at it, let me lay out some of the risks. Clashes between contestants, ballot box looting, harassment, extortion, abduction, killings. These are all inherently part of that election cycle that we may witness. So any of these events or incidents can easily spiral into crises and much bigger risks. So the way I look at it, as you rightly pointed out, elections may be leading us to a more legitimate, sustainable way forward, but it can also create that level of risk if any of these incidents sort of flare up into crises. This time it's going to be even more vicious because the level of polarization is extremely high. And let's not forget, elections are when people invest. You know, there's campaign financing. You have to invest. If you're a candidate, you cannot just go and, you know, you need to print posters, flags. They cost money. So it's a heavy investment for a candidate. So, and the candidate always tries to win the election because he's heavily invested in it, right? So that level of competition is even going to be fierce this time.
Yes, this brings me to the major matter, the political parties. When political parties raise concerns about election security concern beforehand, right, should institutions read them as early warnings or political messaging or both?
The security institutions have to read into it anyhow because those are the candidates that are going to be competing for elections. But when they say it's an insecure environment, you have to read it. How would I read it? I would read it as their own personal insecurity, looking at the context, because most of the older political parties feel insecure to go back to their constituencies because we've heard incidents of them being chased away or not being unwelcome. So that level of insecurity is there. But there's also, I think, financial insecurity because campaign financing requires, someone has to contribute. So how many people are now willing to contribute to the campaigns of these older political parties? That's also a question, right? So the physical insecurity, the financial insecurity, and the insecurity also relating to one particular episode of the revolt is the guns and the inmates, because most of the guns that were looted have not come back. We've not been able to bring it back into our fold. So that creates an insecure environment. But also the number of inmates that have escaped, criminals. So that creates a more insecure environment for possibly for some of these candidates, maybe not for all, but the institutions need to read into that and plan accordingly so that they can instill that sense of security so that they are able to go into elections without fear.
Mm-hmm. As you said earlier, this is not the first time Nepal is experiencing transition. We've passed through several transitions, prolonged ones and transitions of many other natures. But this one is happening or unfolding in a far harsher international environment, right? So from a security perspective, which assumptions about Nepal's strategic space no longer hold today?
The assumptions that we are shielded by two giant powers no longer holds true because there's another power as well. Because at least the perception, at the perception level, our people feel there's a third power that has intervened or that has fiddled around during that revolt. So we are no longer shielded by just these two superpowers. The second assumption I think that no longer holds true is the fact that we only have physical borders. We also have something called a digital border. So because of our digital domain, we also have a digital border that we need to protect. So that no longer holds true. And I think the third one is the fact that the assumption that all the Nepalese reside within the Nepalese territory, that no longer holds true, meaning the voters. So we have elections, but a large number of our population resides all over the world, right? So Nepal is not just within Nepali territory, but Nepali nationals being all over the world. So that assumption that Nepal is just here no longer holds true, I think, because both in terms of a voter perspective, but also in terms of our national security perspective, because the security of a national is paramount. And if you have such large number of nationals that are residing elsewhere, if anything untoward were to happen to them, the obligation of the state does not end at our borders, because it transcends that. It's, whatever happens to our nationals in the US, in the Middle East, in Japan, Korea, we need to step forward. So that assumption that we are only bound or obligated to the people in Nepal no longer holds true, I think.
And is non-alignment still a protective posture for Nepal, or has it become more porous?
I have a completely different viewpoint on non-alignment because I don't think it's no longer an option for us. It never was. I think non-alignment is something we as a nation, we were very good at putting up a facade, saying that we are part of the non-aligned movement, we are non-aligned, But let me try to sort of not necessarily negate that, but paint a more clearer picture of non-alignment. We are the only country on this planet whereby we allow our nationals to serve in the armed forces of two nuclear countries through an agreement. And you know who the two countries are, right? The Indians and the Brits. So for the Brits, we've been doing for hundreds of years. We have something called a tripartite agreement, which allows men to also be in the Indian Armed Services. Name one country on the planet that has this kind of agreement, right? If you look at alliances, alliances are usually military in nature, correct? There's no military alliance whereby a country is sending its nationals, allowing its nationals to don the uniform of a different country. We allow that. We actually have two countries that have military bases within the country. The Indians have a military base. They have their camps in Pokhara. The Brits have in Pokhara and Dharan as well, in Kathmandu as well. So that whole facade of non-alignment, I don't think it applies to us. We've never been a non-aligned country. In fact, we've always been a multi-aligned country, but we have propagated ourselves and positioned ourselves as a non-aligned country. I mean, people may not agree to that, but that's actually a fact. And just in addition to that, the Indians have come up with this new global outlook called multi-alignment, which Jaishankar has pronounced. They've also said we're going to be strategically autonomous. I don't know how that works. Autonomy and alignment I don't know how that goes together, but I don't think non-alignment is any longer an option for us. It's never been our actual reality, but we've propagated ourselves as that.
Now, as ground shake here in the domestic front, much is evolving around us as well. From warfares to day-to-day living, everything is like evolving and changing in a spearheaded manner, right? So this brings us to the last and one of the most important questions from the security perspective, Mr. Thapa. What kind of the world do you, as an expert, see Nepal is actually transitioning into, and if our institutions are prepared for that world?
I've always wanted to answer that question. It's usually said that we have transitioned into a multipolar world. I don't buy that. I think we have moved into a non-polar world. They're no longer. Let me explain it. I always say there's South Pole, there's North Pole, and there's Nepal. We're a pole of our own because we're so unique and so different, so many ways. We are a pole of our own because we're the only country on this planet where we have annoyed, aggravated, or angered almost all the nuclear countries at the same time. So we are of a different breed. But the world, I think, that we're transitioning into is a non-polar world, which is very combustible, very volatile, very fractured. It's almost like a Hobbesian world where it's nasty, brutish, short, solitary, poor. Because if you look at what is happening all over the world, it's almost transitioning into that. And if I may tell our viewers, I highly recommend everyone to watch the Canadian Prime Minister's speech at the World Economic Forum. And also the fact that I want to mention, there's a saying, you're either at the table or you become a menu, right? You're on the menu. There was a World Economic Forum meeting where I don't think we were represented. So that, I think, is something we need to aspire to, and we need to plan for that. So it's a very volatile world that we're transitioning into, because everyone is out for themselves. The global power of the United States has almost recoiled. It has a whole different set of priorities. The global order, as we used to call it, the rules-based global order, I think is degenerating into a global disorder. Are the big powers going to, subscribe to the rules-based order? Probably not. The UN system has become completely toothless, so that multilateralism, collective security, the idea of collective security almost is eroding faster than we can, think of. So it's a very difficult world we are transitioning into, and we need to plan for it. Hopefully our leaders will have that level of dexterity to navigate these tumultuous waters that lay ahead of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thaba, for coming over, sparing your very valuable time and lending us that expert security analyst lens to understand the dynamics around us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
What emerges from this discussion is clear. Transitions are dangerous, not because change is happening, but when authority, timing, and perception fall out of sync. Nepal's challenge is not the absence of stability, but the discipline required to manage exposure, internally and externally, in a far less forgiving world. That is the security test of this transition, and that is it from Geopard this week. Goodbye.
Welcome to the Hinterlands. This weekly show whips together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal. Takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. It's a country alive with stories, laughter, ideas, and everyday magic. I'm Rosina Rai, and we will be leading you into this journey every week. When we hear about Nepal, images of the majestic Himalayas, rich cultural diversity, and a vibrant festival quickly come to our mind. A land where festivals are not just celebrations, but a way of life. Festivals and Nepal are often considered synonymous, reflecting the country's deep cultural roots and ethnic harmony. And with that spirit, we begin this new episode of the Hinterlands by exploring Magi, one of the most significant festivals of Nepal, predominantly celebrated in the Tarai region.
Nepal celebrates Mage Sankranti, also known as Makar Sankranti, as per lunar calendar, as one of its most cherished festivals. It marks the sun's northward journey, signaling the end of the winter and the start of longer days and new beginnings. While the essence of the festival remains the same, its celebration varies across communities, each adding its own tradition and flavor. For the Tharu and Magar communities, Mage is celebrated as the New Year, while the Newar community observe the day as Ghya Chaku Salu, when ghee and molasses are consumed to provide warmth and energy during winter. In western districts such as Dang, Kapilvastu, Kailali and Nawalparasi, Tharu villages are filled with excitement and joy with the celebrations. The villages came alive with harvest feast, ancestral worship and vibrant traditional dances. The air resonates with the rhythms of Maghota and Sakhiya dances. Homes are filled with the aroma of special ethnic delicacies like dhikri, fish, snail, pork and wild boar, accompanied by homemade rice or millet wine. During this time, villagers also select annual leaders such as the Badghar, watchman and Guruba, who guides the community in development, security and religious affairs. Meanwhile, in the hilly regions of Nepal, including Thankuta, Tanahu, Lomjung and Magdi, the Magar community celebrates Mage with equal enthusiasm. Dressed in their traditional attire, they perform the ancestral dance, filling with the streets with joy and color. The celebrations often begin with the rally featuring Kaura and Jhaure performances, leading to the main festival venue such as Damoli. Ethnic dishes like bara, roasted soybeans, gundruk and taro offer a unique taste of the region. Mage Sankranti is more than just a festival, it is a spiritual and cultural marker of renewal. It symbolizes health, prosperity and community, serving as a time for charity, religious rituals and new ventures. Above all, it is a moment when Nepali communities across the country come together to celebrate life, tradition and the hope for year ahead.
That was a glimpse into the vibrant Mage festival celebrated across Nepal. And now we reconnect to you with one of Mage's most significant traditions. The election of the Badghar or village chief, along with other key leaders responsible for guiding and safeguarding the Tharu community. Different from the country's formal political appointments, this practice is deeply rooted in Tharu customs and reflects a legacy passed down through generations. Held after the Grand Mage New Year celebrations, this important activity highlights the community's collective decision-making and cultural continuity.
The Mage festival, a grand celebration of the Tharu community as a new year in Nepal, concludes with great fervor. However, Tharu villages across the western Nepal, including Kanchanpur, continue to buzz with important activities. Following the festival, one of the most significant traditions of the year takes place, selecting the village leader known as the Badghar. Alongside the Badghar are the community leaders such as the Chaukidar, watchman, Lekhandas, record keeper and the guru teacher are also selected. Villager gathers in open spaces discussing, debating and reflecting on the past year. The work accomplished, the challenges faced and the lessons learned are all carefully reviewed before any decision is made. Then through majority consensus and open dialogue, a new Badghar is chosen. This system acts as a grassroots democratic customary organization responsible for planning, developing and resolving disputes within Tharu villages and the community entire. The process is also a living example of thorough democracy, where every voice is heard and every contribution matters. Traditionally led by men, the role of women in leadership is growing nowadays, and young people are increasingly stepping forward, eager to contribute to their communities. From resolving disputes to overseeing development projects and guiding cultural and collective activities, the Budgur's role is central to village life. But this tradition is about more than leadership alone. It is about unity, identity, and the continuity of their culture. Through this annual ritual, the Thari community of Nepal remains connected to its roots, bound together by shared responsibility, shared heritage, and shared celebrations. Even today, the selections of the Budgur keeps the spirit of the village alive, ensuring that traditions endure and that the community moves forward together.
Now we turn to a different report from Nepal's far western region, raising serious concerns over earthquake safety and preparedness, as the country observed the 28th National Earthquake Safety Day. While marking the day, experts emphasized the urgent need for earthquake-resistant constructions and the strict enforcement of building and land use regulations. And this leaves a pressing question: is Nepal truly prepared for another unexpected tremor, unlike the devastating earthquake of 2015?
Events including morning rallies and awareness programs were part of the 28th National Earthquake Safety Day that was observed Friday across Nepal. Western Nepal, separated by Gorkha, tectonically is separated from the center and is facing a growing earthquake threat, much due to lack of awareness among the rural folks. Experts warn that this region lies in one of the country's most seismically active zones, where a long period without a major earthquake has allowed dangerous levels of energy to accumulate beneath the ground. Geological studies indicate that more than 5 centuries since 1562 Bikram Sambat, no major earthquake has struck the mountainous belt stretching from Gorkha to Nepal's western border and beyond into India. In contrast, central Nepal experienced the devastating 7.6 magnitude Gorkha earthquake in 2015. Seismologists say that the absence of a similar event in western Nepal makes the region particularly vulnerable to a powerful future earthquake.
सुदूरपश्चिममा भूकम्पको जोखिम बढी छ, आउने जोखिम बढी छ। शहरी लगायत पहाडी भूभागमा बनेका परम्परागत घरहरू भूकम्पको कति जोखिममा छन्, कति क्षति हुने हो भन्ने त्यो आकलनहरू पनि त्यति भएको पाइदैन।
Between 2022 and 2026, more than 100 tremors were recorded across the far western province of the country, sharply increasing in 2023 to 24. Bajang district experienced the highest number of tremors, followed by Bajura, Acham, Doti, Paitari, Dadildhura, and Darchula. The danger is compounded by the fact that most settlements in the far western province consist of old, non-engineered buildings that are highly vulnerable to strong shaking. Experts are calling for earthquake-resistant construction, strict enforcement of building and land use regulations, and enhanced preparedness measures, including search and rescue capacity and community awareness. While provincial authorities defend that steps toward preparedness have already begun, but experts stress that coordinated action by federal, provincial, and local governments is essential. In a country as seismically fragile as Nepal, preparedness and resilience remain the strongest tool to protect lives and communities from future earthquakes.
We have discussed Nepal's Magi festival, the tradition of electing the Budgur, and concerns over earthquake safety. Now, shifting focus in the hinterlands, we turn to a critical governance issue, the budget performance of Nepal's Sudur-Paschim province. Despite more than half of the fiscal year having passed, the Sudur-Paschim provincial government has spent only around 10% of its total budget, raising serious questions about financial management, development, delays, and administrative efficiency. In this report, we take a closer look at the reasons behind the poor budget execution and the sectors most affected.
6 months into Nepal's current fiscal year, the Sudur Paschim government is struggling to turn its budget plans into action. Despite ambitious promises and a larger budget than last year, spending on the ground remains strikingly low. By mid-year, the province has managed to spend only about 10% of its total budget, a figure that raises serious questions about the effectiveness of provincial governance under Nepal's federal system. Only 3.66 billion Nepali rupees has been spent so far. Budget that was meant for roads, irrigation, canals, schools and health facilities projects that directly affect people's daily lives has not been touched. With capital spending at just 5.8%, development work across the province has slowed and delayed, leaving many projects stalled before they even begin. This year, the Sudur Paschim government announced a budget of over 33.46 billion Nepali rupees, equivalent to 230,915,000 US $, focused on key sectors such as infrastructures, education, health and agriculture. But the numbers tells a different story. Compared to last year, the decline is stark. At this point in the previous fiscal year, nearly 22% of the budget had already been spent. The most worrying sign lies in capital expenditure, while this year the province has barely retouched half that level. Most of this went toward routine administrative expenses, while then a fraction reached development projects. Even ministries with the largest budgets, physical infrastructure, social development, and agriculture have fallen short of their spending targets. Officials say recent disruption, including the Gen Z movement, slowed administrative process and delayed project implementation.
जुन क्षति भएको थियो संरचनाहरू ती कुराहरू मिलाउने कामहरू भइरहेका छ मन्त्रालयको समन्वय उहाँहरूले गरिराख्नु भएको छ र दोस्रो भनेको अब बाँकी रहेको अवधिमा खर्च कसरी बढाउन सकिन्छ कार्यान्वयन प्रक्रियालाई कसरी अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरामा कार्ययोजनाहरू माग गर्ने काम भएको छ.
As the time runs out, the risk grows that development spending will be rushed toward the end of the fiscal year, a familiar pattern undermining both the quality of development and public trust in federal governance every year. The slow pace of budget execution highlights a persistent gap between planning and implementation in Nepal's provincial governments.
This brings us to the final report of this episode of The Hinterlands, where we compile visuals from districts across the country to capture Nepal's intensifying election fervor ahead of the upcoming House of Representatives elections scheduled for March 5th. As candidate registration open across all 165 constituencies, Nepal has stepped into the election season with a mix of anticipation, speculation and skepticism. These high-stakes contests are shaping up to be among the most competitive in recent memory, drawing attentions not only nationwide but also from the international community.
Candidacy registration under the first-past-the-post system for Nepal's upcoming House of Representatives elections completed peacefully today. The filings mark the formal beginning of what is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated electoral contests in recent history of the country. Among the heavyweights still contesting the elections are CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli from Chapa 5, former Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal from Rukum East 1, former Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal from Rautahat 1, Nepali Congress leader Gagan Thapa from Sarlahi 4, and Rashtriya Swatantra Party Chair Rabi Lami Zhane from Chitwan 2. The contest in Eastern Nepal's Chapa 5 has become the talk of the nation. The former Prime Minister and CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli faces a direct challenge from former Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Saha. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP has positioned Saha as a potential future Prime Minister, turning the constituency into a high-stakes battleground against one of Nepal's most seasoned political leaders. Pushpakamal Dahal, coordinator of the Nepali Communist Party CPN and a three-time Prime Minister, filed his nomination from Rukum East Constituency number 1. Known for contesting from multiple constituencies over the years, Dahal previously ran from Gorkha 2 in 2022 2022, Chitwan 3 in 2017, Siraha 5 in 2013, and both Rolpa 2 and Kathmandu 10 in 2008. Meanwhile, Dr. Baburam Bhattarai of the Progressive Democratic Party submitted his nomination from Gorkha to the same constituency he won in the past. Bhattarai's last-minute entry sets the stage for a closely watched race, with voters weighing competing visions for governance, development and regional leadership. Former Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal filed his candidacy from Rohtahad 1, continuing his representation of the constituency. RPP chair Rajendra Lingdel also entered the race from Chapa 3, a seat he had previously held in parliament, while Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP chair Ravi Lamechhane decided to be in the race from Chitwan 2. Political competition has also intensified in Chapa 2, where former Speaker Devraj Ghimire and Deputy Speaker Indira Rana Magar have filed their nominations. In Kathmandu 3, Kulman Ghising, chair of the Ujalo Nepal Party and former Minister for Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, registered his candidacy. The constituency 3 in Kathmandu is expected to see heated contest on March 5th election, with the former Kathmandu Metropolitan Police Chief Rajunath Pandey running under the Rashtriya Swatantra Party banner. Meanwhile, the newly elected president of the Nepali Congress, Gagan Thapa, has officially filed his candidacy from Sarlahi 4. With the nominations complete and political heavyweights in the field, Nepal now heads towards a fiercely contested election that could redefine the country's political landscape.
Beyond the cities and the headlines, real life continued to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. This is Rosina Rai here again. Goodbye for now.
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. This is me, Bhavana Casey. In this edition, we bring you the stories making headlines across the globe, from high-stake discussions at the World Economic Forum in Davos to TikTok's major US deal, groundbreaking achievements in space. We have got all the key headlines you need to know. Let's start with the World Economic Forum held this week in Davos. The World Economic Forum ended amid geopolitical shifts, with leaders debating trade tensions, global conflicts, climate risk, and the future of the cooperation in a fragmented world. US President Donald Trump drew attention by saying his proposed Board of Peace will work in conjunction with the United Nations, presenting it as a complementary effort to address international conflicts.
Delegates from around the world convened in Davos to discuss a broad range of pressing issues, including escalating trade tensions, ongoing regional conflict, climate change risk, and the increasingly uncertain future of international cooperation in fragmented world. Discussions highlighted the stark contrast between the nation's economic priorities and political strategies. While some countries emphasized the urgent need for multilateral cooperation to combat climate change and global economic instability, others focused on protecting national interest in an era marked by rising nationalism. Trade disputes between major economies, particularly between the United States and China, were a recurring topic of debate as policymakers warned that prolonged tensions could slow global growth and disrupt supply chains. U.S. President Donald Trump emerged as a focal point of attention during the forum, drawing both praise and criticism with his proposal for a new Board of Peace. According to Trump, the initiative would operate in a close coordination with the United Nations, serving as a mechanism to address international conflicts more efficiently.
Do other things. We can do numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. You know, I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential, has not used it, but this is important. This board has the chance to be one of the most consequential bodies ever created, and it's my enormous honor to serve as its chairman. I was very honored when they asked me to do it.
As the forum concluded, many delegates highlighted the difficulty of achieving consensus in a fragmented global system.
At the same forum in Davos, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that U.S. President Trump's ability to maintain a dialogue with Russian President Putin could help bring about an end to the war in Ukraine. Russian, Ukrainian and U.S. negotiators in the meantime are meeting in Abu Dhabi for what is expected to be the first trilateral talk since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022.
Zelensky told journalists at the World Economic Forum in Davos that he believed President Trump could help end the war in Ukraine because he had a direct dialogue with Russian President Vladimir Putin, emphasizing that not everyone had that label of anxious. Zelensky also added he has reached an agreement with Trump on security guarantees to ensure the maintenance of peace in Ukraine following a possible cessation of the conflict with Russia. Zelensky also said the documents being drafted with Washington aimed at ending the nearly 4-year Russian invasion are nearly ready. Trump, meanwhile, after meeting Zelensky in Davos, called for Russia's war in Ukraine to end.
What do you mean by total? We're meeting with Russia. That'll take place tomorrow. They're going to be meeting with President Putin. I had a very good meeting with President Zelensky. Everybody wants to have the war end.
Separately, Russian, Ukrainian and U.S. negotiators are meeting in Abu Dhabi for the first trilateral talks since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The discussions are being closely watched as a potential turning point in the conflict, offering an early test of Moscow's willingness to pursue a negotiated resolution.
Japan has suspended operations at the nuclear plant hours after restarting a reactor after an alarm sounded during startup procedures, though the reactor remained stable, according to operator TEPCO. The restart of reactor number 6, the first at the plant since the 2011 Fukushima disaster, comes as Japan continues to a cautious return to nuclear power after shutting down old reactors following the catastrophic earthquake and meltdown.
Reactor 6 had restarted on Wednesday, a day later than planned due to a separate alarm malfunction. It is the first reactor at the plant to be restarted since the 2011 Fukushima disaster, which followed a 9-magnitude earthquake and triggered a meltdown that forced more than 150,000 people to evacuate. Following the suspension, Tokyo Electric Power Company TEPCO's spokesperson Takashi Kobayashi said the reactor was stable and there is no radioactive impact outside. He added that TEPCO was investigating the cause of the incident and did not provide a timeline for when operations will resume. Prior to the scheduled restart, protests erupted outside the headquarters of Tokyo Electric Power Company in Tokyo as people gathered to oppose plans to restart the world's largest nuclear power plant. Many evacuees, meanwhile, have not returned despite government's assurance that the area is safe. The plant's 7th reactor is not expected to restart until 2030, and the remaining 5 reactors could be decommissioned, significantly reducing the plant's capacity compared with when all 7 were operational.
TikTok has closed a deal that will allow the hugely popular short video app to continue operating in the U.S. The deal comes after a years-long tussle between Washington and Beijing that began in Trump's first term in the White House when he tried unsuccessfully to ban the app over national security concerns.
TikTok was due to be banned in the U.S. in January 2025 if its Chinese owner, ByteDance, failed to sell its U.S. operations to American investors. if its Chinese owner, ByteDance, failed to sell its US operations to American investors. But US President Donald Trump repeatedly postponed the enforcement of legislation to take down the application. The main source of contention was the application's powerful algorithm, which dictates the content recommended to users. Now that formula has been licensed to the application's American owners and will be trained only on US data. It is said this will certainly produce changes, but how exactly it affects the 200 million Americans on the app remains unclear. For years, Washington has been pressuring TikTok to sell its US operations, citing national security concerns over its Chinese owner, ByteDance. Lawmakers had expressed fears that Beijing could force the firm to hand over US users' data. Both TikTok and ByteDance have consistently denied the claim. The idea of a TikTok ban, first floated by Trump during his first term in 2020, gained momentum under Joe Biden's presidency. In 2024, Biden signed a law demanding that ByteDance sell TikTok or face a ban in the US. A legal battle ensued between ByteDance and the US government. And in January last year, the application went offline for US users for 12 to 14 hours. Meanwhile, President Trump welcomed TikTok's new majority American-owned joint venture and thanked Chinese President Xi Jinping for approving the deal.
A high-speed train derailed, then collided head-on with an oncoming service in Spain this week, killing at least 43 people and injuring more than 120 others. The accident is said to be one of the worst rail disasters in Spain, as recovery operations continued this week. Carriages on a moderate-bound train derailed and crossed over to the opposite tracks, colliding with an incoming train in Adamuz. 400 passengers and staff were on board both the trains. Emergency services treated 122 people, with 48, including 5 children, still in hospital. Spanish Transport Minister said the death toll is not yet final, as officials have launched an investigation. It described the incident as extremely strange. The collision happened at 7:45 p.m. local time, about an hour after the train left Malaga, heading north to Madrid, when it derailed on a straight stretch of track near the city of Cordoba. The force of the crash pushed the carriages of the second train into an embankment. Rescue teams said the twisted wreckage of the trains made it difficult to recover people trapped inside the carriages. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has won a 7th term with a 71.65% of the vote, extending his rule since 1986. At the age of 81, Museveni will enter his 5th decade in office. People took to the streets of Kampala to celebrate after Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni was declared the winner of a disputed election, securing a 7th term in office. The announcement followed days of tension after a vote that was marred by reports of violence, a nationwide internet shutdown, and a heavy security deployment across the country. African election observers say the arrest and kidnappings of opposition supporters before and after polling day had instilled fear among voters, raising concerns about the credibility of the process. Opposition leaders rejected the results, alleging widespread intimidation, ballot irregularities, and the suppression of dissent. Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, dismissed the accusations and defended the security measures as necessary to maintain order. Authorities said the internet blackout was imposed to prevent the spread of misinformation. Despite the controversy, state media showed supporters celebrating the result, highlighting the deep political divisions that continue to shape Uganda's political landscape. Turkey's Kızılırmak Delta is home to 365 bird species, representing nearly 70% of the country's total, and serves as a key wintering and stopover site for migratory birds. The strictly protected area receives approximately 100,000 visitors annually. Turkey's Kızılırmak Delta has exceptional bird diversity and serves as a key wintering ground for migratory species. Located in Samsun, the Kızılırmak Delta bird paradise stands out for its rich biological diversity. Spanning 56,000 hectares, the delta is home to nearly 70% of all bird species found in Turkey, with a total of 365 species recorded. During the winter months, the delta becomes a vital refuge for migratory birds arriving from Siberia and northern Europe. Nearly 1,000 swans swans spend the winter season in the area, creating striking natural scenes for visitors. Welcoming around 100,000 visitors annually, the delta is designated as a strictly protected sensitive area. The wetland's role as a stopover and wintering site is considered critical for many bird species, while the presence of swans offers visitors a unique and memorable landscape. Conservation efforts focus on preserving the delta's wetlands, lagoons, and reed beds, which are essential for sustaining this fragile ecosystem. The delta continues to play a critical role in biodiversity conservation and awareness in Turkey. Villagers in Nepal's Himalayan foothills gathered to watch an annual bullfighting event held during the Maghe Sankranti festival, a Hindu celebration marking the start of the holy month of Magh and the transition to warmer weather and longer days. The event, which draws thousands of spectators, features pair of bulls pitted against each other in a public arena. Organizers say the tradition is closely tied to a local culture and is conducted under supervision.
The bulls are often adorned with colorful decorations, and local musicians play drums and horns to accompany the event, creating a lively and festive atmosphere. For villagers, the bullfighting tradition is closely tied to local culture, agricultural practices, and religious observances. It is seen as a way to honor the strength and vitality of livestock, which are central to the region's farming communities. Families prepare special foods and perform rituals during the festival, while young men and women participate in organizing the event, reinforcing community ties. While the practice draws enthusiasm from locals and tourists alike, animal welfare groups have occasionally raised concerns over the ethics of bullfighting. Organizers maintain that the event is conducted responsibly, with veterinarians present to monitor the animal's health and prevent serious injuries. Maghe Sankranti festival itself is celebrated across Nepal, particularly in the mid and far western regions. It includes offerings to the sun god, bathing in holy rivers, and preparing traditional foods such as sesame seeds, molasses, and yam. The bullfighting event is considered one of the festival's main attractions in the Himalayan foothills, reflecting a centuries-old blend of cultural celebration, religious observance, and community entertainment.
While in neighboring India, tens of thousands of Hindu pilgrims took part in the month-long Magh Mela festival along the banks of the Ganges River. Thousands of Hindu devotees gathered at the Sangam, the sacred confluence of the Ganges, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers, to bathe in the holy waters during India's annual 44-day Magh Mela festival. Pilgrims from across the country arrived in the early morning, braving winter cold to take part in the ritual bathing, which is believed to bring spiritual liberation and cleanse devotees of their sins. The Magh Mela, held each year in the northern city of Prayagraj, is one of Hinduism's most important religious gatherings. Temporary camps, kitchens and medical facilities have been set up along the river banks to accommodate the influx of worshippers, saints and other people. Authorities deployed a large number of police and volunteers to manage crowds and ensure the safety at the sprawling festival site. The event blends devotion, tradition and community, drawing millions over its duration and underscoring the enduring spiritual significance of India's A long-serving extravehicular activity EVA spacesuit from China's Tiangong space station returned to the Earth this week aboard the Shenzhou 20 re-entry capsule. The suit spent more than 4 years in the orbit, exceeding its original design life. A long-serving extravehicular activity spacesuit returned to the Earth on Monday aboard the re-entry capsule of China's Shenzhou 20 spaceship, concluding a distinguished service period spanning more than 4 years in orbit, far exceeding its original design life. Known as Spacesuit B, it was among a number of large scientific payload items sent back to the Earth on the unmanned Shenzhou 20 return capsule, which touched down in North China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. The capsule's original return had been delayed due to concerns over damage sustained in a suspected space debris incident, while an alternative spacecraft was used to transport the 3 Chinese astronauts on the Shenzhou 20 mission safely back home in November. First launched in May 2021, Spacesuit B made its debut during the inaugural EVA conducted from the then under construction Tiangong space station in July 2021, when it was used as part of a landmark 7-hour spacewalk. Over the next 4.5 years, the suit supported 11 Chinese astronauts across 8 crewed missions, enabling 20 successful EVAs to be conducted. The 3 Shenzhou 2 astronauts arrived at the space station on November the 1st with their return capsule later being used to bring back the Shenzhou 20 crew members after tiny cracks were found in the viewport window of the latter spacecraft. The damage was likely caused by an external impact from space debris, according to China Manned Space Agency.
South Korea's military launched its first large-scale cold weather exercise, conducting intensive drills in snow-covered mountainous terrain. The 2-month program includes battlefield surveillance, ski mobility, casualty evacuation, and operations using small explosive-laden drones. The South Korean Marine Corps Special Brigade has launched its first large-scale cold-weather training exercise since its formation last year, conducting intensive drills in extreme winter conditions, including operations involving small drones. The 2-month training program, which began earlier this month, is designed to strengthen the brigade's ability to conduct deep penetration and missions during wartime. The newly established unit trained in snow-covered mountainous terrain where temperatures remained well below freezing. During the exercises, Marines performed cold exposure conditioning drills, including lying on snow-covered ground with bare torsos and sprinting up icy slopes to build endurance and resilience. Training scenarios focused on entering into enemy's territory, battlefield surveillance, and rapid response under ambush conditions. Ski-based mobility drills were also conducted to enhance mobility in deep snow alongside casualty evacuation exercises simulating combat injuries in harsh terrain. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences this week announced nominations for the 90th Academy Awards, with the movie Sinners leading the field in a record-breaking year for the Oscars. Sinners received 16 nominations, the most ever for a single movie, as it surpassed the previous record of 14 nominations held by Titanic, All About Eve, and La La Land.
The Oscars nominations highlight a mix of established favorites and surprising contenders across multiple categories. In addition to Sinners, several other films received multiple nominations, reflecting both critical acclaim and popular interest. It is noted that this year's slate demonstrates the Academy's continued emphasis on diversity and international cinema, with films from outside the US earning significant recognition. Hosts Daniel Brooks and Louise Pullman kicked off the announcement with the Best Supporting Actress category, surprising many viewers by naming Elle Fanning for her role in Sentimental Value. Awards pundits had not widely predicted her nomination, signaling a year of unexpected choices and notable snubs. The nominations also underscore competitive nature of this year's Oscars, with multiple films vying for key awards in acting, directing, and technical categories. The 98th Oscars ceremony is being held on March 15 in Los Angeles.
The Netherlands marked its annual National Tulip Day this week. Thousands visited to see blooming tulips, while growers highlighted the Netherlands' flower industry and promoted sales ahead of the spring harvest.
Around 200,000 free tulips are being handed out at Museumplein in Amsterdam as part of Dutch National Tulip Day, marking the start of the country's international cut tulip season. The event, organized under the theme United in Bloom, draws locals and tourists alike who line up to collect the vibrant flowers and celebrate the Netherlands' iconic flower industry. The tulip season, which runs until the end of April, showcases the nation's status as the world's leading producer of cut tulips. During the 2025 season, the Netherlands produced an estimated 2 billion cut tulips, underscoring the scale and global importance of its floriculture sector. Dutch National Tulip Day combines tradition, tourism, and horticulture, offering a colorful start to the spring season while highlighting the economic and cultural significance of the tulip in Dutch life.
Well, that was the coverage of the Netherlands' iconic tulip flowers, and this brings us to the end of this episode of The World This Week. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. We shall see you again next week with a new episode. Also, do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com, our social media handles, as well as our YouTube channel. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
have made drastic progress in the sector of handicrafts with the development of civilization from the Stone Age until the 21st century. These include and are not limited to works of art, sculptures, wood and metal crafts. These handicrafts have also found religious, historic, cultural and archaeological acceptance and significance. Religious texts have identified the attraction of human settlements in the mountainous region of Nepal, which has always remained an independent sovereign nation. Ramapithecus human remains found in Butwal of West Nepal clarifies that human settlement had begun in Nepal more than 10 million years ago. We find historic references of works of handicrafts made by those living in this region. Such Nepali handicrafts are artistic and useful, therefore also successful in gaining international appreciation. Instead of the modern handicrafts, Nepal is well introduced in the international community by its traditional and historic works of art and craft. Millions of tourists who visit Nepal every year observe, study and relish the traditional handicrafts available at religious shrines. The high-quality woods brought from local forests are seasoned before being carved. Nepali woodcrafts are not only popular inside the country, but also have a demand abroad and therefore are exported. In addition to sculptures of gods and goddesses, artistic doors and windows, among other furniture, are made from wood in Nepal. Best examples of Nepali woodcraft can be taken as the artistic carvings at palaces, temples and other religious shrines in Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur. The 6th century woodcraft present at Rudravarna Mahavihar in Okubahal of Lalitpur is considered the oldest. Nepali woodcraft continues to thrive with the creativity, dedication and effort of trained artists. Artist Punyaraj Tuladhar, popular around the world, shares his experience. Lalitpur is popular around the world for its metal craft in Nepal. Works of metal craft produced here had a great demand in countries including Bhutan, Japan, China and European nations. Metal statues are developed using two methods in Nepal: repose art and lost wax process, both widely popular around the world. Repose art is a metalworking technique in which a malleable metal, silver, copper and brass among others, is shaped by hammering from the reverse side to create a design in low relief. Small sheets of metal are cut based on required measurement to form different organs of statues before being welded together. Designs and patterns are then carved into the structure. Gold is plated in some works such as metalcraft as well. Such metal sheets are also used in the roof of temples and other religious shrines. Lost wax process is the technique by which a metal sculpture, often silver, gold, brass or bronze, is cast from an original sculpture of wax made of honeycomb. Molten metal is poured into a mold that has been created by means of a wax model. Once the mold is made, the wax model is melted and drained away. In the second phase, the metal sculpture is cleaned with different machines or equipment. After filling of the sculpture, It is then plated with gold or painted with colors based on the requirements. Most of such sculptures are found in Buddhist and Hindu religious shrines. Globally recognized senior artist Krodh Kala Shiromani Kalu Kumale shares his experience. Existing sculptures present in Nepal and at museums abroad prove that the works of sculptures have a long history in the country. Sculptures made using the lost wax process have a huge demand in China and other countries and continue to be exported. Okubahal, Nagbahal, Haugal and Tangal, among other places, are the pioneers in metal craft. Likewise, metal crafts of Tansen in Palpa, Chainpur and Bhojpur are also popular around the world. Silver filigree art of Nepal is internationally recognized. The genre, which began during the Lichavi era and grew in the Malla era, is considered quality work of art of Nepal. Attractive shapes are made from metals including silver, and precious stones are then used to create artistic objects. It is believed that works of filigree art were the first ones to be purchased by tourists. Artists speak of a huge demand of quality Nepali filigree art in the international market. Senior artist Dilliraj Shakya shares his experience. Stone art is taken as a significant category of handicrafts. Equipment including hammers is used in development of beautiful sculptures. This form of art had begun with the development of different kinds of weapons. They are strong and durable and therefore remain intact. Most of the sculptures of gods and goddesses are made from stones. Likewise, sculptures of animals, stone taps, temples, religious symbols and goods used in daily lives are also made from stone. Most of such sculptures are made from the stones found in local hills, including Hattiban, Machegao, Tika Bhairav, Godavari and Kharpa, among others. Senior artist Dharmaraj Shakya says that Nepal's stone art has a unique identity. Of the stone sculptures found so far, a sculpture of King Jaya Varma found in Harigao and currently conserved at National Museum in Chhaoni is considered to be the oldest historic sculpture. Likewise, sculptures in Changu installed by King Mandev, another found in Tilganga near Pashupati, a sculpture of Vishnu Vikrant in Lazimpat, and the one at Budhanil Kantha are also considered historic. Sculpture of Birupaksha Kirateshwar Mahadev at Pashupati Aryaghat, Vishwaroop at Changu, Garud Sayan Vishnu sculpture, Palanchuk Bhagwati, Gazalakshmi of Lalitpur, Chashal Hiti and Krishna Mandir of Patan, among others, are considered the best stone sculptures of Nepal. Terracotta sculptures and masks, among other artworks, are made from clay. Terracotta works are thought to have been in existence in Nepal from a long time. According to historians and archaeologists, terracotta works found during a recent excavation administered by the Department of Archaeology were from the 2nd century BC. In recent practices, terracotta works are made before the development of metal sculptures. Different goods used in daily life are made from terracotta works. In addition to the sculptures of religious figures, products such as cups and plates, among other utensils, are also made from terracotta technique, while they are sold in domestic and foreign markets as well. Artists who have been working with terracotta for ages live in Thimi of Bhaktapur, Dang and Kapilvastu. Popular artist Gopal Kalapremi says the creativity and dedication of Nepali artists has been uplifting terracotta works in and outside of Nepal. Pauba art is made in the Kathmandu Valley and is considered as a traditional art form. This form of art is known as Thanga in Tibet. In Tibetan language, documentation and archives of gods and goddesses is called Thanku or Thanga. In this form of art, color from natural minerals is used to paint the pictures of religious figures on cloth. The large figure of main god and goddesses is placed at the center, while remaining gods and goddesses are placed in relatively smaller figures at the other parts. The background of this form of art includes different kinds of flowers, clouds, trees, and birds and animals. An artwork of Ratnasambhav Buddha conserved at the County Museum in Los Angeles of the United States of America is considered to be the oldest Paubha art which was developed in the 13th century. The Amitabha Buddha art of the 13th century, also at the County Museum alongside Vishnu Mandala of 1420, and the 19th century's Sahas Bhujalokeshwar saved at the National Museum in Chhaoni, are considered to be Nepal's best Paubha artworks. The demand of Paubha artworks is increasing in Nepal and the foreign market. Popular and senior artist Lok Chitrakar says continuous efforts of talented artists has helped increase the popularity of Nepali Paubha art. Nepali handicrafts have established a significant position in the international community for their traditional, religious, social, historic and archaeological richness. Nepal Academy of Fine Arts has been conducting significant tasks in regards to conservation, promotion and development of Nepali handicrafts. Active involvement of experienced, skilled and talented artists, along with their devotion and sacrifices, have been rejuvenating Nepali handicrafts and helping establish a unique and superior identity of Nepal in the international community.
Heavy snowfall blankets several high-altitude regions of Nepal. Farmers rejoice. Daily life, however, faces disruption. Nepal signs a landmark agreement to receive climate finance of $55 million. Also becomes first Asian country to access climate finance lead coalition. Election Commission releases the personal details of the candidates contesting in March 5 polls. Complaints filed against 3 candidates. Nepal's marginalized Chepang community still denied basic rights despite constitutional guarantees. Largely remains unaware of allocated budget for them. Ukraine condemns fresh wave of Russian strikes. Attacks comes as second day of trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi set to resume. And Nepal beats Zimbabwe in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier. Men's cricket team registers win over Sri Lanka A in final practice match. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and you are watching NTV World News Hour, coming up to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now, the news in details. Fresh snowfall has hit several high-altitude regions of Nepal, causing disruptions to daily life. In mountainous Humla district, the first snow of the year arrived after months of dry weather. Blocking key routes like Namkha, Hilsa, snowfall has been also reported in Darchula, Upper Mustang and Western Magdi districts. While the blizzard has hindered mobility and daily activities, farmers are rejoiced as the snowfall is expected to boost agricultural productivity. We'll have an in-depth report in this later, but our bulletin. Nepal has become the first Asian country to commercially sell carbon credits for reducing deforestation under a landmark agreement with the World Bank through the LEAF coalition. The deal allows Nepal to sell nearly 4 million carbon credits, potentially earning up to $55 million. Generated through its successful community forest management systems, the funding will directly benefit forest-dependent communities, showcasing how developing nations can lead in climate action. We'll look deeper on this in our Issue of the Day segment later in the bulletin. The Election Commission of Nepal has released the personal details of the candidates standing in the election to the House of Representatives member. Election Commission spokesperson Narayan Prasad Bhattarai says it is necessary to make candidates' personal details public as per legal provisions in order to make the election process transparent, fair and trustworthy. It is believed that this will make it easier for voters, concerned bodies, media and the general public to obtain necessary information about the candidates. The Commission says that candidates' personal details can be viewed on the Commission's website. Nepal's marginalized Chepang community continues to face barriers to basic civil rights despite constitutional guarantees of equality. Many, including people with disabilities and those without citizenships, are denied social security, voting rights and access to government programs. A survey by National Human Rights Commission found that about 9% of Chepang in Rasirang, Makwanpur lack citizenship, leaving much of the community excluded from the rights they are entitled to. It is pointed out that without targeted outreach and community-based support, these inequalities are likely to persist. Ukraine has condemned a fresh wave of Russian strikes overnight, which killed one person and injured 23 others, as talks with the US aimed at ending the war are set to resume. Meanwhile, negotiators from Russia, Ukraine and the United States are meeting in Abu Dhabi later today for the second day of negotiations on a plan being pushed by US President Donald Trump to end the almost 4-year-long war. An initial US draft drew heavy criticisms in Kiev and Western Europe for heaving too closely to Moscow's line, while later iterations prompted pushback from Russia for floating the idea of European peacekeepers. Both sides say the fate of territory in the eastern Donbas region is one of the main outstanding issues in the search for a settlement to a war that has killed tens of thousands, displaced millions, and decimated parts of Ukraine. Nepal registered its first win in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier by thrashing Zimbabwe, thanks to half-century contributions of Pooja Mahato in the Team Nepal. In the match played at the TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur of Kathmandu today, Nepal defeated Zimbabwe by 6 wickets, chasing the target of 130 runs given by Zimbabwe. Nepal fulfilled the target in 19.3 overs at the loss of 4 wickets. Nepal's Pooja Mahato made the highest 52 runs in 50 balls, including 4 fours and 2 sixes. Nepal national men's cricket team also registered an impressive victory against Sri Lanka A, registered in its third and final practice match. Nepal defeated the Sri Lanka A team by 7 wickets, having lost its previous warm-up matches. Chasing a target of 133 set by Sri Lanka A, Nepal reached the total in 16.2 overs for the loss of 3 wickets. Kushal Malla played a key role in the win, scoring a 49 runs of 35 balls. The matches have been held as part of preparations for the upcoming ICC Men's T20 World Cup to be held jointly by India and Sri Lanka in February. Nepal makes history in climate action. The country becomes the first in Asia to earn international finance for protecting its forest under the Global Leaf Coalition, selling carbon credits worth up to $55 million. More on this in our issue of the day. Let's take a short break. Welcome back. You are watching NTV World News Hour. Nepal, a Himalayan nation highly vulnerable to climate change, has marked a historic milestone in global climate action by becoming the first country in Asia to commercially sell carbon credits for reducing deforestation. Smitu Khising Tamang with local correspondent Anjay Singh Bika brings a report. More on this in an issue
Nepal
of the day.
and the World Bank have signed a landmark carbon trading agreement under the Global Leaf Coalition, lowering emissions by accelerating forest finance. With this agreement, Nepal becomes the first country in Asia to receive international climate finance through the Leaf Coalition for reducing emissions from deforestation. The deal allows Nepal to earn international climate finance by protecting its forests and reducing carbon emissions caused by deforestation and forest degradation. Under the agreement, Nepal will sell nearly 4 million carbon credits generated between 2022 and 2026 with projected earnings of up to $55 million. Carbon credits represent verified reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. In Nepal's case, they are achieved through long-standing community forest management, an approach often cited as a global success model. Nepal currently has forest cover across more than 46% of its land area, one of the highest proportions in South Asia.
I believe the colleague who represent Emergent were almost like dismantling there, and they were like moving some other countries, right? That was the situation I had reported, and there were 2 deadlines. A hard deadline was also approaching in 2 weeks.
Officials say the agreement is designed to channel climate finance directly to forest-dependent communities, including indigenous people, women, and marginalized groups. In the first phase, the sale of 1 million carbon credits has been guaranteed by the governments of the United Kingdom and Norway, with an option to sell an additional 3 million credits. The credits will be traded under Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement at prices of up to $25 per credit.
यसरी सरकार र निजी क्षेत्र मिलेर बनेको यो कोलिसन चाहिँ लिफ कोलिसन हो र यसलाई चाहिँ हाम्रो इमर्जेन्टले चाहिँ फ्यासिलिटेट गर्ने कोअर्डिनेट गर्ने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिभ युनिटको रूपमा काम गर्ने अवस्था रहेको छ.
Climate experts say the deal positions Nepal as a high-integrity forest country with growing access to global carbon markets. Civil society and indigenous organizations have welcomed the agreement while stressing transparency, rights-based implementation, and fair benefit sharing. At a time of deepening global climate crisis, Nepal's initiative sends a powerful message that developing countries can lead global climate action by protecting nature. Smitu Gising Tamang with local correspondent Anjir Singh BK reporting for NTV World.
Welcome back. This brings us to the conclusion of our issue of the day. Life still out of reach for many Chepang people in Nepal despite constitutional guarantees, missing documents and lack of awareness block access to basic rights, leaving communities like Chepang struggling to claim what's theirs. More on this in our cover story. Welcome back. You are watching NTV World News Hour. Although Nepal's constitution guarantees equal rights to its people, many citizens of the highly marginalized Chepang community still lack basic civil rights. Despite federalism and efforts by all three tiers of government to improve their living standards, awareness and quality of life have not improved as expected, while federal, provincial and local governments allocate budget for Chepang targeted programs. The community largely remains unaware of them. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent Bhavana Rijal explains more on this matter.
Kanchimaya Praja, 26-year-old from Hetora in central Nepal, was born with a congenital disability but has never received the social security allowance provided by the government for persons with disabilities. The reason is both simple and heartbreaking. She does not have a citizenship certificate or a disability identity card. Without these documents, the doors to her basic rights remain closed. Her story is just an example of the ongoing struggles faced by the Chepang community, which has a population of 84,364. Despite constitutional guarantees, many Chepang people continue to fight for basic rights. Nepal's federal system promised a new era of inclusion and equality, yet for many Chepang, life remains a daily challenge. They reflect a systematic challenge confronting the Chepang community. Many struggles to obtain essential documents such as birth certificates, marriage registration, disability IDs, and senior citizen cards. Even when individuals reach the eligible age, there is often no guidance or support to help them navigate the process. A survey by the National Human Rights Commission in Nepal's Mokwanpur district found that around 9% of Chepang people lack citizenship.
एनजिओहरू पनि विभिन्न सेक्टरबाट चाहिँ यो चाहिँ हाम्रो चेपाङ समुदायमा कुपोषणको कुरा गरौँ, बाल विवाहको कुरा गरौँ, यी सबै कुरा क्षेत्रमा काम गरिरहेको छ, तर यिनीहरूको चाहिँ त्यो नतिजा चाहिँ एकदम शून्य छ। यो नतिजा शून्य चाहिँ किन भइरहेछ भने उनीहरू सम्बन्धित समुदायमै पुग्न सकेको छैन के। खाली मात्रै शहर केन्द्रित र त्यसपछि सदरमुकाम केन्द्रित कार्यक्रम भयो।
The government has made efforts to address these gaps. In coordination with local and provincial authorities, federal programs have been launched targeting Chepang communities in areas such as education, health, livelihood, housing, and empowerment. Yet, awareness of these programs remains low. Central President of the Chepang Association highlights most initiatives under the government fail to reach families in remote areas. For citizens like Kanchimaya to fully enjoy the rights promised by the Constitution, the state must go beyond policy announcements. Door-to-door information campaigns and community-based monitoring systems are essential to ensure that no one is left behind. Rosina Rai with local correspondent Bhavana Rijal, Mokwanpur, Nepal.
In this context, we asked members of the marginalized Chepang community what efforts the government should make to ensure the effectiveness of its program. Let's hear this say.
हाम्रो जुन चाहिँ सरकारहरू हुनुहुन्छ हाम्रो गाउँको अलिकति गण्यमान्य हुन्छ उहाँले बोलाएर हामीलाई यहाँ हाम्रो सिबाङ बस्ती बस्तीमा त्यसको हामीले समस्या भन्छौँ उहाँले बुझेर जानु पर्यो।
भएको थियो होला हामीले थाहा भएन के गर्नु।
बजेट आइरहेको छैन तर हामीले पाएको छैनौँ। कति 100मा 25% पनि हामीले पाएको छैनौँ। हेर्नु म्याम
राजनीति गर्ने कहाँबाट के आइरहेछ के भइरहेछ भनेर सोचपुछ गर्नु अफिसमा जाने मान्छे कोही पनि छैन। त्यसै कारणले हामी पछाडिनु परेर बसिरहेको हो।
हजुरहरू आएर अवस्था चाहिँ बुझिदिनु भयो भने चाहिँ अलिकति राम्रो हुन्छ कि उहाँ सिंहदरबारमा बसेर उहाँ तपाईँहरूसँग कुरा गरेर उतातिदेखि कति बजेट आएको छ के कुरा हामीलाई केही पनि थाहा हुँदैन। हजुरहरू आएर यहाँ हामीलाई बुझेर आफैले दिनुभयो भने चाहिँ अलिकति राम्रो हुन्छ कि जस्तो लाग्छ मेरो लागि।
हामी चेवाङ जातिलाई भनेर छुट्याएको बजेटहरू अनि त्यो नै हामीलाई नै थाहा भएन भने त्यो चाहिँ खोइ अब कसरी थाहा पाउने हो त्यो चाहिँ अब सबजनाले अब सुनाइदिनुहुन्छ होला नि त।
हामीले पनि जानेको छैनौँ। हामी यताउति घुम्नु अलिक प्रख्यात छैनौँ अनि त्यही कारणले अहिले बचतहरू चाहिँ त्यति आएको छैन।
अब यसो गाउँघरमा वडातिरबाट अब बुझ्नेहरूले कुनै सूचनाहरू दिएर अब गाउँघरलाई बुझाउने गऱ्यो भने चाहिँ हामीले पनि थाहा पाउन सकिन्छ।
That wraps up our cover story segment. Now the remaining updates. The Election Commission of Nepal says that printing of 15 million ballot papers for the proportional representation electoral system has been already carried out. The ballot paper printing had started at the Press of Janak Education Material Center since January 16. Now 5 million ballot papers are remaining to be printed. According to the Election Commission, printing of the ballot papers for the first past the post will begin upon completion of the printing of ballot papers for PR system. Meanwhile, complaints have been lodged regarding 3 candidates included in the closet list submitted by political parties under the proportional representation system for the House of Representative members election on March 5. The Election Commission says that the concerned parties have been notified to be compulsorily present at the Commission on January 27 from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with their respective evidence. It has been stated that failure to appear at the time summoned by the Commission will be dealt with in accordance with the law. Elections are being held tomorrow to fill 17 vacant seats in Nepal's upper house, the National Assembly. Voting will take place from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at designated polling centers in the respective provinces, according to the Election Commission. Although 18 seats were due to fall vacant, elections are being conducted for 17 seats as Nepali Congress candidate Sunil Bahadur Thapa has already been elected unopposed. A total of 2,043 voters, including provincial assembly members and mayors and deputy mayors of local governments, are eligible to vote in the election. The Election Commission, however, added the final voter count is yet to be confirmed, as some provincial assembly members and local government heads have resigned to contest elections to the House of Representatives. A vote of the provincial assembly member carries a weightage of 53, whereas it is 19 each for the chief and deputy chiefs of the local units. A total of 51 candidates from 8 political parties are in the election race. Nepali Congress President Gagan Thapa has said that he chose Madhesh for his election bid, analyzing that leading Madhesh is key to becoming a national leader. Thapa, during a discussion with youths from Sarlahi in Kathmandu, said that although he could have easily won in Kathmandu, he decided to contest this time from Sarlahi constituency number 4.
मधेससँगको मुखको औपचारिक सम्बन्ध जोडेर मात्र हुँदैन। म नेपाली कांग्रेसको सदस्य हुँ। कांग्रेस पार्टीको जन्म पनि त्यही भयो, कांग्रेस पार्टीलाई मधेसले नै बनायो। मैले आँट गरेर जोखिम लिएर भए पनि आफूलाई मैले मधेसमा समर्पित गरे, समाहित गरे। एकपटक मधेसको नेतृत्व गर्ने मैले प्रयास गरे भने बल्ल म नेपालको राष्ट्रिय नेता हुन सक्छु। त्यसको निम्ति म जाने हो, मधेस जाने हो, त्यही जाने हो, त्यहीको साथीहरुसँग जाने हो, भेज्ने हो। त्यहाँको भाषा सिक्ने हो, त्यहाँको सबै कुरा सिक्ने हो, जान्ने हो, बुझ्ने हो, 5 वर्ष त्यहाँको साथीहरूको बीचमा बस्ने हो र त्यसबाट सिङ्गो मधेसलाई पनि सरलाई 4 को आँखाबाट सिङ्गो मधेसलाई चिन्ने हो।
CPN-UML chairman and former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli said Nepal's current political situation has reached a decisive moment, warning that the country now stands at a point of winning or losing. UML chief Oli made such remarks during a program organized by his party in Kathmandu today.
नेकपा एमाले पार्टीहरूको लाइनमा एउटा पार्टी होइन। 143 वटा दर्ता भए, 100 कतिवटा चुनावका लागि तयार भए, कतिले दर्ता गरे, कति चुनावी प्रतिस्पर्धामा छन्। यी पार्टीहरूको लाइनमा एउटा नितान्त पार्टी मात्रै होइन नेकपा एमाले। नेकपा एमाले कुनै उद्देश्य नबोकेको, गन्तव्य नभएको, कहाँ पुग्ने तय नभएको यो ट्रेडमिलको यात्रा गरे जस्तो यात्रा गर्ने पार्टी होइन। यो गन्तव्यमा पुग्नका लागि हिँड्ने, गन्तव्यमा पुग्नका लागि यात्रा गर्ने पार्टी हो।
Snowfall and rain across Nepal's mountain districts have offered timely relief to struggling farmers. The moisture is expected to improve soil conditions for winter crops and spring planting. Aprila Kissing Lama brings more in our next report.
After a gap of nearly 4 years, the district headquarters of Dadildhura received its first winter rain. This brought much delight to the farmers awaiting snow to flourish their winter crops. In the highlands of Nepal, where crop yields are very low due to the cold, harsh and dry weather conditions, snowfall, on the other hand, is a necessity to end the drought. Snowfall brings much needed moisture and renewed optimism for farming communities across the region. In Dadildhura, in Nepal's far western hills, light snowfall was recorded overnight at the district headquarters, while moderate snowfall covered higher elevations. The rare winter weather followed months of dry conditions that had put winter crops under pressure. For local farmers, the snowfall is more than a seasonal event. It is critical for agriculture. The combination of snow and rain is expected to improve soil moisture, benefiting crops such as wheat, barley, potatoes, seasonal vegetables, and fruit orchards common in hill regions. In Doti district, rain accompanied by snowfall marked the first snow event of the season, including in Khaptad, one of Nepal's major ecotourism and pilgrimage destinations. Farmers say the moisture has brought much needed relief after a prolonged lack of rainfall since November. Similar conditions were reported across other high hill and Himalayan districts of Sudar Paschim province, including Baitadi, Darchula, and Bajang, where light snowfall was accompanied by rain. Further east, Rukum experienced its first snowfall of the season. Snow accumulation briefly disrupted traffic along the mid-hill highway. Meteorologists say winter snowfall plays a vital role in mountain agriculture, releasing water gradually into the soil as it melts, replenishing groundwater and supporting crops through the spring planting season. While snowfall caused short-term transportation challenges in some areas, it is widely seen as a timely and positive development. For Nepal's mountain communities, this winter snowfall is more than weather. It is a reminder of nature's role in sustaining livelihoods in some of the world's most fragile farming regions.
Nepal's Ministry of Finance says that financial assistance from various countries and donor agencies every year is spent outside the government's budget system. According to the ministry's Development Cooperation Report 22-23, 22.5% of the total development aid received by Nepal in that fiscal year was spent outside the official budget. The report states that Nepal received development aid worth $140 million that year, of which $110 million was off budget and $30.93 million was on budget. Of the off-budget funds, only $42.81 million was actually spent through the government treasury, while off-budget funds are often used to provide immediate support during natural disasters. Economists warn that such spending lacks transparency and accountability, increasing the risk of corruption or misuse. It is also pointed out that this practice weakens financial discipline and could raise the country's debt burden. Martyrs Week celebrations has kicked off from today in memory of those martyrs who fought and sacrificed their lives for democracy and political freedom in Nepal. In this connection, a program was held today at the memorial of Sukraj Sastri at Pachali of Teku in Kathmandu, where Sastri was executed by hanging from a tree during the then Rana regime for his fight for democracy. Today is the first day of Martyrs Week observed annually in the country. Martyrs Week is observed in commemoration of martyrs Sukraj Sastri, Dharmabhakta Mathema, Dashat Chand and Ganga Lal Shrestha, who were executed by the Rana rulers on different dates in the month of Magh during 1997 Bikram Samvat of Nepali calendar for rebelling against the autocratic Rana oligarchy. Various programs, including memorial assemblies, are organized throughout the week to pay tributes to the freedom fighters. Time for international updates now, but before that, let's have a quick recap of the headlines. Heavy snowfall blankets several high-altitude regions of Nepal. Farmers rejoice daily life, however, faces disruption. Nepal signs a landmark agreement to receive climate finance of $55 million also becomes first Asian country to access climate finance lead coalition. Election Commission releases the personal details of the candidates contesting in March 5 polls. Complaints filed against 3 candidates under the PR list. Nepal's marginalized Chepang communities still deny basic rights despite constitutional guarantees. Largely remains unaware of allocated budget for them. Ukraine condemns fresh wave of Russian strikes. Attacks comes as second day of trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi set to resume. And Nepal beats Zimbabwe in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier. Men's cricket team registers win over Sri Lanka A in final practice match. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer denounced as insulting Donald Trump's claim that British troops avoided the front line in Afghanistan amid widespread anger at the US president's remarks.
And so I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country.
The US will offer more limited support to allies, according to the Pentagon's new national defense strategy. In a significant shift to its security priorities, the US Department of Defense now considers security of the US homeland and Western Hemisphere, not China, as its primary concern. Previous versions of the strategy, published every 4 years, named the threat posed by China as the top defense priority. Relations with China will now be approached through strength, not confrontation, the report says. The defense strategy reinforces recent calls from President Donald Trump, including for greater burden sharing from allies in countering threats posted by Russia and Korea. A landslide killed at least 8 people and more than 80 are missing on Indonesia's main island of Java. Triggered by heavy rainfall, it struck 2 villages in Java's West Bandung region and buried residential areas. The local search and rescue agency said it was conducting manual excavation, spraying the soil with water pumps and using drones to search for the victims. The disaster follows flooding and landslides late last year that killed about 1,200 people and displaced more than 240,000 in Indonesia's Sumatra Island, according to official figures. Environmentalists and experts have pointed to the role forest loss played in the flooding and landslides that washed torrents of mud into villages. Floods and landslides are common in Indonesia during the rainy season, which typically runs from October to March. Thailand's former Prime Minister Abhisit has launched his campaign for Thailand's February 8 general election, campaigning at a morning market in Bangkok as the leader of the Conservative Democratic Party. Abhisit, who previously led the country during a violent military crackdown on red shirts protesters, was reinstated as party leader last year after stepping down in 2019. He emphasized his focus on reviving economic growth and restoring integrity in Thai politics, saying he is determined to lead the country out of a decade of low economic growth and to have politics back with integrity. The February election is expected to test the strength of Thailand's traditional conservative parties against emerging populist and progressive movements. The death toll in a fire which engulfed a shopping center in Pakistan has climbed to 67. Police say 77 people are currently reported as missing by the families following the fire at Gul Plaza in Pakistan's largest city, Karachi, last Saturday. It is said that fire escalated rapidly under initial warnings were reportedly ignored. Authorities are investigating the mall's fire safety measures and the response timeline as the incident raises concerns over preparedness and emergency protocols. A 2-3A, once the world's largest iceberg, has entered the final stage of its life, having shrunk to less than 1/8 of its original size. According to China Meteorological Administration (CMA), the latest true-color imagery from the Fengyun 3D satellite reveals that the main body of it now covers an area of only 503 square kilometers. This is a dramatic reduction from just a few weeks ago when it measured 948 square kilometers. Since breaking off the Antarctic ice shelf in 1986 with an area of 4,170 square kilometers, it has spent nearly 4 decades journeying from its birth to its impending demise. The A2EA iceberg will likely disintegrate completely within the next few weeks. The remaining iceberg fragments and floating ice currently scattered over an area of approximately 1,439 square kilometers now pose a significant navigational hazard in the coming months. Time for a short break, but do stay tuned with us as we have 4 updates from business and sports on the other side.
Gold prices are surging to historic levels, approaching or even surpassing $5,000 per ounce, marking one of the most significant rallies in years. Silver is also breaking records, climbing above $100 per ounce as investors flock to safe haven assets. Analysts attribute the rally to ongoing geopolitical tensions, a weaker US dollar, and economic uncertainty, which are driving both institutional and retail demand. Ordinary investors are increasingly joining the rush, adding fuel to the upward momentum. Experts warn that while the surge could continue, the market is also showing signs of heightened speculation. Overall, today's movements highlight the growing global appetite for precise metals as a hedge against risk. TikTok's new US joint venture has updated its privacy policy to allow the collection of precise location data from its roughly 200 million American users, pending user consent. Previously, TikTok only collected approximate location data in the US based on SIM cards or IP addresses. The change comes after US investors finalized a deal with TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance, creating a new American-run entity to operate the app. Precise location sharing hasn't been enabled yet and is expected to be optional and turned off by default, requiring users to opt in. The joint venture is also expanding data collection tied to TikTok's AI tools, including user prompts and how AI content is created. The deal follows years of US-China tensions over data security, with the US law threatening a ban unless TikTok's US operations were sold. Oracle, a key investor, will secure US user data and refrain TikTok's algorithm on American servers, while ByteDance keeps a minority stake. Venezuela is moving to overhaul its oil industry, opening the sector to private and foreign investors after years of strict state control. Lawmakers are advancing reforms that would reduce Petroleos de Venezuela SA's dominance, allowing companies more freedom to operate oil fields, market crude, and invest independently. The government says the changes aim to revive production after years of underinvestment, sanctions, and falling output. The shift comes as Caracas seeks to reset ties with Washington, with U.S. energy firms signaling they could return quickly if rules ease. While communities near oil facilities hope for jobs and stability, at the same time, many remain cautious after past oil booms that failed to deliver lasting benefits. Beijing this week hosted the 2026 International Commercial Space Exhibition, bringing together more than 300 Chinese and international aerospace companies and attracting overseas firms. The event spotlighted China's rapidly expanding commercial space sector, spanning launch vehicles, satellites, space services, and investment. Leading Chinese private firms unveiled new rockets, reusable launch systems, and satellite technologies, while others showcased Earth observation and AI-powered space applications. Foreign exhibitors, including companies from Europe, said China is becoming a key hub for space innovation and collaboration, with many firms focused on concrete business deals ahead of China's 15th five-year plan.
Now the sports update. Novak Djokovic escaped the heat and beat Dutchman Botic van de Zandschulp 6-3, 6-4, 7-6 at the Australian Open to reach the fourth round during his bid for a standalone 25th Grand Slam title. With his 102nd match victory at Melbourne, the evergreen Serb equaled six-times champion Roger Federer's record at the year's first major and also became the first player to secure 400 wins at the Grand Slams. Djokovic will face rising American talent Ben Shelton in the fourth round, aiming to maintain his dominance at Melbourne Park, where he has now won 10 Australian Open titles. Barcelona held a final training session ahead of their La Liga clash against Oviedo as the team looks to maintain their position at the top of the table. Coach Hansi Flick, meanwhile, emphasized the importance of a strong start to the match, warning that early lapses could be costly.
I said before, we have to be very sharp from the beginning and always 90 minutes in the game, and we know to defend, because you saw teams against us, how they defend with everything what they have, and I think sometimes maybe we are thinking, okay, everything works well because we are playing good football and just like that. No, but to defend, it's much more difficult, and we have to be focus on that, ready for that, to go in the 1-against-1 situation, to clear, to block, and everything about that.
Now the weather updates, first from Nepal and then from around the world. We are almost at the end of the bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's have a look at the top stories that have made it our headlines this hour. Heavy snowfall blankets several high-altitude regions of Nepal. Farmers rejoice. Daily life, however, faces disruption. Nepal signs a landmark agreement to receive climate finance of $55 million, also becomes first Asian country to access climate finance lead coalition. Election Commission releases the personal details of the candidates, consisting in March 5 false complaints filed against 3 candidates under the PR list. Nepal's marginalized Chepang community still denied basic rights despite constitutional guarantees, largely remains unaware of allocated budget for them. Ukraine condemns fresh wave of Russian strikes. Attacks comes as second day of trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi set to resume. And Nepal beats Zimbabwe in the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier. Men's cricket team registers win over Sri Lanka A in final practice match. That is all for tonight. I'm Suviksha Rajak and thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.